Good afternoon, everyone. I, CA Charmi Atusha, on behalf of Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI, welcome you all participants to today's webcast, Emotional Intelligence, the Ultimate Skill to Excel and Lead at Work. I welcome today's resource person, CA Rakesh Singh, and all others present over here. Our speaker, Rakesh Kumar Singh, sir, is a qualified chartered accountant with over 4 years of post qualification experience, currently working in corporate security and internal audit function in the industry. Along with his core audit and compliance expertise, Rakesh has built strong capability in digital branding, content strategy, and audience engagement. Over time, he has developed a deep and emerging digital platform, an area especially relevant for finance and accounting professionals looking to stand out in an increasingly competitive landscape. With this brief introduction, I welcome Rakesh Singh, sir, to our participants, and now all the floor is all open for your deliberation. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am, for such a brief introduction. A very good afternoon to all of you, all the participants who are attending today's webinar. Uh, at the outset, let me thank the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI, for organizing this wonderful webinar. Not only this one, but a series of webinar as we are getting emails, notification on our emails that such and such webinars are being organized. So there are a bunch of webinars that are continuously being organized by the PSEC ICI. I also want to thank CA Jayacharya sir, Chairman PSEC ICI, CA Abhay Chhajet sir, Vice Chairman PSEC ICI, also our Secretary for PSEC ICI, Dr. Sambit Kumar Mishra sir, and the technical support team, Bhargav ji, who is here with us from the technical support team, and also the moderator for today are CA Charmi Atul Shah. Thank you. So I'll be sharing my screen. So this webinar is on the topic emotional intelligence, the ultimate skill to excel and lead at work. So we all have heard the word, IQ, intelligence quotient. So IQ, EQ, EI. So today we'll be, deliberating and covering all the aspects. So how EQ or EI is different from IQ, whether EQ and EI are same or different. And this today's webinar will be revolving around all the emotional intelligence and emotional quotient capabilities. And first of all, let's understand why it is important. I mean, why are we covering emotional intelligence? I mean, we should be covering IQ, how to sharpen our brains, how to work our brains. But why this subject? Why this topic, emotional intelligence? Let's find out. So I'll brief you what we'll be covering today. So this entire deliberation is divided into four parts, excluding the EI part. So first we'll be deliberating over EI, EQ, and IQ, how they are different, what led to their formulation, how people find out about EQ and EI. After that, just starting from slide 16, we have split the content into four parts. First one is knowing your emotions, because after knowing your emotion, you'll be able to, or we'll be able to master our team success. Second is how to respond wisely. And when we respond wisely, we reduce workplace chaos. Third is empathy, which builds trust and then influence. Last but not the least, self awareness sparks confident leadership. After that, I have some questions for you at the end to think about, ponder on yourself, on whether you classify yourself as being emotionally intelligent, emotionally available, someone with having the empathy skills. We'll find out in the coming slides. First of all, let's understand the difference between IQ, EI, and EQ, whether EI and EQ are same or different. So, as we all know, intelligence quotient or IQ is something related to our cognitive ability. So, cognitive ability of the brain is responsible for reasoning, logical interpretation, problem solving skills. That is IQ that we are talking about. But for today's topic, that is EQ, EI, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is being emotionally available, understanding our emotions, managing our emotions, as well as understanding others' emotion as well. So that is EI for you. Now, the focus of IQ is on thinking, analyzing when we do data analytics or any kind of analytics that we perform. That is the focus of IQ is on that. Now, coming to EI, emotional intelligence, the focus is on emotions, understanding emotions, building relationship, developing social skills. So the focus in EI is among these. Now, changeability. When we talk about changeability, we are talking about whether we are able to change it or adapt onto it. So IQ is largely fixed throughout life. I mean, there is very less scope of changing or adapting in IQ. I mean, how our brains are shaped, until and unless we are working excessively hard on it, on improving ourselves, which we all must do. Now, coming to emotional intelligence is very much learnable, improvable at any point of time. It doesn't matter whether you are 40 or 60 or 18. Anyone can develop emotional intelligence at any point of time, at any point or at any stage of their life, and we'll be, learning more or knowing more about it. How we gonna learn it, and it's not an age barrier. By an example that is there in the coming slides. Now, how IQ is measured. So IQ score is there. So quotient means score. So basis which we measure something. So for I to measure IQ of a person, we all have heard in our general knowledge books when we were kids that Einstein has the largest IQ, and then there are news of people who have IQ more than Einstein. So that is IQ score. Similar to IQ, emotional intelligence is also measured on a matrix known as emotional quotient or EQ score. I remember when I was in school 10 years back in class 9th or 10th, and there were a bunch of students who were studying in the college, and they come to our school uh, for their research or academic purposes. So they hand out us a printed sheet, a template, where different kinds of questions were there. So they explained us what emotional intelligence or emotional quotient is, and we were kids to understand because no one told us about what emotional intelligence is, how to develop it, or something like that. So they were fulfilling their duties, and they handed us a bunch of booklet, and we were to tick among the four options, and that's how they find out our emotional quotient score. Although they never shared with us what our score was, that's still a mystery after all these many years. But yeah, that was my first interaction with the emotional intelligence 10 years back. Now, the impact of intelligence quotient is responsible. So intelligence quotient is responsible for your academic success, technical expertise in a domain, or in any field that is restricted to IQ. When we talk about emotional intelligence, the impact is overarching. So it is on your leadership skills, how you perform as an individual, how you evolve in a team, how you do the teamwork, how you lead a team, whether you are team leader or not, how you develop your leadership skills, and how you communicate with people, not only your team members but other than your team members, how you communicate. That is the impact of emotional intelligence. Now, the examples for IQ is, for instance, solving a math problem, or to make more relevant to a starter accountants, it's like solving accounts question or taxation, or analyzing IFRS implementation over a particular client or GST, anything, right? Which involves our brain's cognitive ability. That is IQ. Now, emotional intelligence is staying calm during a conflict or resolving it. It is not only limited to this only, but this is an example of EI. Moving on to the next slide, before we set the tone for today's deliberation, I want you all to take 1 minute to close your eyes and reflect. So, what I want you to tell me is in the chat that how do you usually respond when you feel stressed or overwhelmed? Many a times we feel overwhelmed with something, when there is a deadline, or we are overburdened with some kind of work or anything, right? And I want you to think of a recent situation and note how you manage your emotion when you were overwhelmed, or overstressed with, overburdened with some kind of work. So this will help us set tone for today's discussion. So I want you all to write down in the chat on these questions. And just to let you know, there's a lag of around 30 seconds to 1 minute, so I'll give you that time. In the absence of any comments, I mean, if it will come, Charmi will let Charmi, can you let us know, right? We'll move to the next
Yes,
slide.
sir, definitely, definitely.
So we'll be talking about Daniel Goleman. So Daniel Goleman is an alumni of Harvard University. So the person who popularized emotional intelligence. So this he was the person who popularized this content on emotional intelligence. So it was back in 1995 when he wrote this book, Emotional Intelligence, and it is a must read for every one of us. How we under it will help us to understand our emotions and everything. So it is a groundbreaking book on by the title Emotional Intelligence. So he helped make EQ as important as IQ, because people were only talking about, even nowadays as well. I mean, most of the companies or most of the people are talking about EQ, but it is not on that extent or on that level as of IQ. So he helped via this book and all the deliberations, all the interviews that he did, all the articles that he wrote in the newspaper, the Times, which helped make EQ as important as IQ. Because in leadership, when we talk about leadership and workplace success, most of our success depends upon how emotionally intelligent we are. So he helped make EQ as important. He studied psychology at Harvard University, and he worked as 12 plus years as a science journalist for the New York Times. And he developed the five components of emotional intelligence. So he outlined there were five outliers that he proposed for the emotional intelligence, that is self awareness, self regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skill. These all five components we'll be covering in the coming slides. So his research transformed leadership development. So all the curriculum were revamped. Not only it was no longer restricted to IQ only. So emotional intelligence part were also covered, because when you climb the leadership, uh, you know when you are being promoted, everything matters, and what matters main is the EQ, your emotional intelligence part. And he's also the author of multiple bestsellers. Social intelligence is there, Focus, Primal Leadership, and these are one of the most important books talked about when we talk about emotional intelligence. So when you will read his book, this one, Emotional Intelligence, you'll come to know that, like we talked in the previous slide, unlike IQ, emotional intelligence can be developed at any point of time. It can be developed, revamped, or it can be forgotten as well. And I'll tell you how it can be done via this example, and how we can prove that emotional intelligence is a brain activity. It can be developed at any point of time, and it is not fixed. I mean, you are not born with it, but it can be developed at any point of time. So there was this person, Phineas Gage, and we'll be talking about him in the slide. So Phineas Gage was a railway construction foreman in 1848. He was top class in his work. He was a top class supervisor. Everyone wanted to be on his team. Every manager want him to be in his team. The apprenticeship, or like we have the articleship. So you can say the articles wanted to work under him, so that they can learn his skills, how he deals with people and everything. He was fantastic man. One day what happened is, during a blasting activity. So in the earlier times, when you were drilling, so there were no drillers basically. So to drill on a railway line, you have to do sand blasting. So while doing the sandblasting activity, there was a kind of distraction. There was some bomb explosion nearby, and his focus shifted for a fraction of second. And when his focus shifted for a fraction of second, a 3 foot iron rod, because he was doing the sandblasting activity. So in the sandblasting activity, what you do is you basically drill a hole with a hammer and nail, and then you put some carbon in there, and then the sand is there, and then you hit it with a rod. So when when his focus shifted, the iron rod that was there, it went through his brain, and it damaged his frontal lobe. So frontal lobe is that portion of brain which help us in understanding the emotion. So there are two parts of brain, left and right. So whenever whatever I am speaking or whatever you are listening, it went to our brain. In the right side of the part of the brain, the information gets stored, and then it is processed via the left side of brain, which is responsible for processing emotion. So it was damaged during this incident or this accident. So what happened, what was the impact on his brain? It destroyed the circuit responsible for the emotional regulation, the frontal lobe, empathy, and impulse. So the left side of the brain is responsible for all these. Before accident, like I mentioned, he was responsible, disciplined, calm leader. But what happened after 6 months? He was very much recovered. He didn't die, but he recovered. And after he recovered, people noticed a sudden change in his behavior. He became impulsive, he was rude to his juniors and seniors, he was aggressive, he became socially disconnected, because the part of brain which was responsible to analyze and comprehend emotions was no longer there because of this incident. So after that, there is a famous quote that went on after him, that Gage is no longer Gage, because he was no longer himself after that incident. So via this story of Phineas Gage, we are able to understand that emotional intelligence is not soft; it is neurological. So it can be developed at any point of time. It is a part of our brain activity, that is our frontal lobe, that is for emotion controls center. Now, before coming on to the emotional intelligence, let's understand what is emotion. Whom do we call as an emotional person? So, as you all might be aware of, in an ordinary day, a person faces or a person encounters around 400 plus of emotions. So there is 400 plus emotions that comes to our mind in every day or in any day, right? So when we talk about emotion, so emotion refers to person who experiences and expresses strong feelings. So that strong feeling can be happiness, sadness, anything. So when we talk about emotion, it is any kind of feeling that we face or that we are facing. Now these feelings, as we talked about, that these feelings can be positive like joy, excitement, or negative like anger, sadness. And when we talk about that this xyz person is emotional, so when we say being emotional often means reacting based on feelings, based on intuition, and not on logic or analysis. So if you are hurt, you'll cry. I mean, that is a motor response of our body, right? So that is being emotional. We are not comprehending, we are not analyzing anything. That is simply emotion. For instance, crying during a sad movie. If you are watching a sad movie, many people cry. Or we feel thrilled after hearing some good news, like when we passed our C exams, we were so much thrilled. There were a lot of emotions. That is emotional. Now, what is emotional intelligence? So, emotional intelligence is not only restricted to emotions, it goes beyond just feelings and emotion. It is about understanding and managing them effectively. So, how we are able to understand what emotions we are going through, how well we are able to, channelize it or circulate it. That is emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence includes emotional awareness, because until and unless we are not aware of our emotions, we won't be able to channelize it or manage it. So, when we talk about emotional awareness and empathy, that is recognizing our own emotions and as well as of others. So, it is not only restricted to our emotions, but also recognizing others' emotions as well. And when we talk about empathy, empathy is understanding and sharing the feelings of others. And when we do this, it helps us building trust and strong relationship, because treating some other person who is in some kind of sadness or anything with empathy develops a long lasting bond. And it is a foundation of strong relationship, and it is an attribute of a strong leadership, being empathy. Now there is harnessing emotions for thinking and problem solving. So emotional intelligence can be used as a problem solving skill as well, because when you are emotional or when we are emotional, there's a lot of emotions going on through. Until and unless we are unable to channelize it, we won't be able to make proper decisions. For instance, if you see, many times we are working under pressure, and it is very much important to be calm at that point of time. Until and unless we stay calm during that pressure situation, we won't be able to solve or think of the problem creatively, and we'll do some kind of mistake while responding to it. So that's why it is important for us to be emotionally mature at that point of time. Now coming to the managing emotions. So when we talk about managing emotions, it is like regulating our own emotions, like controlling anger. If there is a situation where it makes us angry, so we have to calm our mind. There are exercises, techniques, stop and go technique, holding your breath, or you are being emotionally overwhelmed, feeling overwhelmed. So there are techniques that we'll talk about in the coming slides on managing our emotion. Now managing emotions is not only limited to ourselves, but also influencing others emotionally positively, like cheering up someone who are feeling down or sad, right? And this skill is very much crucial, and that's why we are talking about this emotional intelligence today, because this skill is very much crucial for leadership, teamwork, and conflict resolution. Because when we are working on a lower level, it is okay, we are doing our own work and are responsible for our own work. But as you grow in hierarchy, you climb leadership, you climb levels, then leadership skill and this emotional intelligence will help you evolve as a leader. Now Daniel Goleman divided this emotional intelligence concept into four domains and 12 competencies, and we'll be talking in the coming slides on these four domains and 12 competencies that he talked about. So the four domains that he outlined are self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. So the first one is self-awareness. So we'll understand how being self-aware will help us building our emotional intelligence capability. So emotional self-awareness means recognizing our own emotions and understanding their impact on thoughts and action. So that is self awareness. So until and unless you don't recognize, or we don't recognize what kinds of emotions we are facing, and until and unless we understand what kind of impact it will have on our thoughts and action, if that emotion is not managed well, then we won't be considered as self aware. So self awareness is the first step towards emotional intelligence. For instance, many a times people ask for our feedback. So suppose there is an error, there's an issue, let's say with your broadband, and you raised a complaint, and then they ask for the feedback. And suppose your complaint is not resolved due to XYZ reason. You are frustrated and you will give them a zero, maybe as a rating, right? So you need to understand, one need to calm down you know, before making any kind of decision. Because when we make decisions, when we are frustrated, we usually make wrong decisions and we regret often, right? Now the second domain is self management. So in self management is divided into five or six broad categories, and we'll be talking about in this and coming slide. So first one is emotional balance. So when we talk about self management and emotional balance, we mean staying composed under stress. Often at times we feel a lot of stress, let's say it's because of the deadlines, or let's say because of the work that has been assigned to us, of related to some other kind of work or some other kind of domain that we have never talked about or never discussed, or never worked on that kind of assignment. So what happens is, we feel stress and we need to be stay composed during that period of time. Second is a positive outlook. So whenever you face, or we face any kind of challenge, it is very much important to maintain optimism. So optimism is looking at the positivity, so positive things. So let's say we faced a project delay, we are working on a, let's say, internal audit assignment, and the deadline was for last week. We have had to cover it by in the last week, but we were not able to cover it within the given time, within the given deadline, and the morale of the entire team has crashed. For us, or for a leader, it is very much important to, even for the team members, it is very much important to have a positive outlook, that we'll be able to manage it, we'll be able to pull it off, right? Because uh, when we are not motivated, or we are not having a positive outlook, we won't be focusing on solution, we'll only be limited to problems only. Now the third is adaptability. So adaptive, when we talk about adaptability, as we all know, adaptability is our ability to adjust to changes quickly. How quickly we can adapt to changes. Many times we have seen people resisting changes. So that is because they are not that emotionally mature, or we are sitting comfortably in our comfort zone, and we don't want to challenge that. So being adaptable means having the ability to change quickly. For instance, there's a new compliance rule introduced. So let's talk about the labor code, which has been revamped recently. And if there is a person from payroll management or finance and accounts team, so is responsible for overseeing that payroll part. If you are not adaptable on the changes, you are not updated, let's say, on the recent changes or developments. So that will give you some kind of panic moment or hard moment. So until and unless we have the ability to adjust quickly, we won't be adaptable. Now fourth one is achievement orientation. I mean, whenever we always should have a mindset of achieve striving for excellence and continuous improvement, like I mentioned in the above topic, right? We have to set our standards. So for instance, let's say we talk about process improvement. So this time we did a particular audit, and we set a benchmark for our reports. Let's say the quality of our reports, the quality of our findings, the quality of our process improvement, it won't be regular, like ki open po pada hua hai, and things like that. We have to give some kind of process improvements on a larger scale, which is benefiting the organization and giving them value in real terms, and not a regular day to day one. I mean, they are also there क्योंकि annexures भी तो बनाने हैं, right? So we have to set a benchmark for us. And then what we can do is, to be achievement oriented, we can ask for feedbacks from our juniors and seniors as well, and that will help us to work on ourselves and overall to develop our emotional intelligence. Now coming to awareness, so it is a third aspect of the four domains. So the third domain is social awareness. So when we talk about social awareness, we talk about empathy and organizational awareness. So when we talk about empathy means understanding others feeling and relating to them. So that is empathy. For instance, we noticed a colleague of us, or let's say a client, who is stressed, and what we can do is we can offer him support or her support without any kind of judgment. And by support means it could be understanding, listening to them, their problems itself. Not always we have to give some kind of solution or feedback, but sometimes we can just listen to their problems, and that is empathy, that is being empathetic to them. Now second one is organizational awareness. So when we talk about organizational awareness, we are talking about dynamics or emotional dynamics and power structures of our organization where we are working. So so suppose there are many a times, in my articleship, when I was doing a audit of a PSU, there was always a kind of conflict or you know constant tension between these two departments, that was finance and the operational department or the engineering department, because they were always thinking of that finance department does not release budget, does not approve bill, do some kinds of irregular or irrational checks without any why. And when you are talking about, so because we are a chartered accountant, and people perceive us as someone from the finance department or who are overshadowing the finance team, so there's a kind of tension. And being emotionally intelligence help us to overcome that kind of tension and to adjust our communication so that the collaboration can be done, and we could be able to perform our task or our audit work effectively. Now the next and the last one of the domain is relationship management. So when we talk about relationship management, we talk about influence. So influence means the ability to persuade and inspires other effectively. And needless to say, influence is not always verbal. I mean, it is most of the time it is non-verbal. So the way you carry yourself, the way you speak, the way you lead your team, that inspires your team members, or maybe other someone else, someone from not from your team, but from the other department as well. And when they see you working or speaking, or any kind of deliberation that you are giving, they are very much inspired. So you have seen people idealizing. When we idealize someone, for instance, we idealize a XYZ person, let's say Cristiano Ronaldo or Roger Federer for tennis. So we idealize them because of their work ethics, the kind of job they are doing, the kind of discipline they have, and that is their ability to persuade and other people, persuade other people and inspire them. Now, coaching and mentoring. So when we talk about coaching and mentoring, it is very much important for us to have a mentor, and also equally we are equally responsible to mentor our juniors as well, because coaching and mentoring not only helps you to grow, but your juniors or other team members as well. For instance, there's a new associate that we have recently hired, and it is for the onus is on us to groom him or her, so that he could complete, let's say, an audit task effectively with our minimal intervention. So that is coaching and mentor to us. Now, there is conflict management. So conflict management is, so the kind of domain that we are working is, uh, it is very much needed to have this conflict management skill. So suppose you give a observation to the management. There is a board meeting where we are discussing some kinds of observation, and one of the HODs, to whose department that particular observation pertains to, he starts shouting to you. He says that this finding is bluff, there is no such kind of activities going on, or let's say, we are not doing work in this way. So there can be situations like that. So when we have this ability of conflict management, we are able to resolve disagreements constructively, and not between ourselves and the third party, but within our team as well. So it is very much important to have this conflict management skill, and it is a part of our overall emotional intelligence aspect. So for instance, there are two team members among our team only, uh, who can have the opposing view. So a particular task can be completed in XYZ manner, or there's another way of doing that task. So when we do the conflict management, we come on a common ground. Maybe it could happen that the person A, who is saying that this task should be performed in certain way, maybe he is right, so we can go with him. But we have to make B also understand that what A is saying is true. So this conflict management aspect of emotional intelligence help us achieving those tasks. And to to resolve a kind of conflicts, you need to have that empathy, you need to have that uh, emotional intelligence. We need to be understanding, we need to be open to feedback, and not always speaking but also listening. So that aspect help us in being emotionally intelligent. Now, another aspect of relationship management is teamwork. So teamwork means building collaborative relationship. And then there is inspirational leadership, like I talked about Cristiano Ronaldo when it comes to football, or let's say Roger Federer when it comes to tennis. So what they are doing is kind of inspirational leadership. They have their vision, and they are following their vision, and it is motivating other people, and people not only following football, from other games as well, or to students, or let's say to working professionals. So that is a kind of inspirational leadership that they are sharing with us. Now, coming to the slide. So as I mentioned in the opening, that the today's topic is divided into four parts. So first off, the part is knowing your emotions or mastering your team success. So every team wants to be successful, but success isn't about technical skills or strategy. It is about emotions. It is very much about emotions. Emotion, because emotion drives behavior, and behavior drives result. So if you can understand your emotions, you can unlock the true potential of your team. So emotions influence how people think, people act, and collaborate. So emotions is responsible for all of it. How we think, if we are thinking in a particular way, emotions influence our thinking skills, our acting skills, our collaboration technique. So behind all of these is our emotions, and if we let emotions feel free, do on its own what we are doing. So if we are on the autopilot mode, or emotions are controlling ourselves and not the other way around, we are not controlling our emotion. So when we are controlling, or when we are able to channelize it, it is emotional intelligence. And when emotions are controlling it, we make irrational decision, and we are not able to think on our own, act according to our whims, and collaborate. So when leaders recognize their own emotions, they are able to make better decisions. And when leaders are understanding others emotions, they build trust, resolve conflicts, and inspire performance. So what do you think, why it matters? So if we take this slide, no emotions and master team success, why do you think it matters, why it matters in our aspect, our domain as a chartered accountants? If you can share something in the chat box. So I'll continue. So why it matters for our domain, when we are working as a chartered accountant, let's say in industry, or uh, running our own practicing CA firms. So why it matters to us, being emotionally intelligent, or knowing our emotions, and why we need to master. Because when we know our emotions, when we have controls on how are we feeling and how are we channelizing, it masters our team success. So mismanage emotions. So if we are working, so if our emotions have taken control of ourselves, then what happens is we have mismanaged emotions, and which leads to team burnout, let's say during the year end audits, and conflicts over review comments. So if there is this process procure to pay, and there is a particular working paper on a particular control that you asked one of your juniors to do the testing, and when you are reviewing his or her working paper, and you can see that that person has not performed his work appropriately or as per the test steps, or it could have been performed in a better way. So if you are not able to understand your own emotions, most probably the action will be that we are shouting to them, or we are pointing at them that you don't know how to do this particular control, this is such an easy task, something like that, right? But having control our emotions, we can give them a constructive feedback that this could have been performed in a better way, or we can even show them that how this particular control can be control can be performed. And I'll tell you an example in the coming slides, uh, on this topic, on this very topic, with an example that recently happened with me. So how being emotionally intelligent help us? So being emotionally intelligent make us stay calm during tight deadlines, empathize with our team members, with other team members, even though they have made some kind of mistakes, until unless it is an irreparable one, and to handle client objection without losing composure. Like I told you, during a board meeting, client was maybe shouting at us, or he completely overturned our observation. पहले वो कह रहा था कि he was agreeing with our observation, right, that this is not being performed in a proper way. and it is very much needed to have all kind of documentation just in case that observation or any kind of process improvement backfires you, or that person turns or flips his words. So when we master our emotion, we just don't manage people, we inspire them. Because like I mentioned in the previous slides, that leadership, or being an emotional leader, or a leader with emotional intelligence, we inspire people in a non-verbal ways. So you can't ask someone to follow you. People follow you deliberately because of your actions, your words, how you speak to them, how you treat to them. And being emotionally intelligent help us in this, evolving as a leader, and having this skills is a must. Now, in this slide, we'll be talking about the steps to manage and excel in our workplace. So first instance is starting with self-awareness. Before a client meeting, so I'll share a recent example that happened with me. So it was a inventory audit that we were doing. Inventory audit was something that in XYZ organization I was performing for the first time, and it was related to a tech company. So the manufacturing was not in house. The kind of ENO or excess and obsolete. So the kind of ENO analysis that we're doing was not as per the industry benchmark or what I was used to seeing in the industry. It was altogether a new process. So to give you some background, so how they were performing the ENO analysis or excess and obsolete analysis is, so for the finished goods, they were taking the 6 months demand, 6 months forward demand, and to procure that finished goods we need some kind of to manufacture that finished good we need some kind of raw materials. So for that raw materials there was 18 months rolling forward plan. So first we have to explode that bomb for the finished goods for 6 months into 18 months. So it involved a lot of calculation, and we were working on a tight deadline. So um, I wasn't able to comprehend that situation perfectly. And how I start my audit meetings, that I always started because I learned from my director. So how he started it, so at the beginning of every meeting he will say, sorry, it might come you as a dumb question, but I just wanted to know this and this. So it gives you an edge that ठीक है अगर इसको नहीं भी आता है तो he has accepted, kind of, right? Even though he knows everything, but ठीक है अगर ये कोई ऐसा क्वेश्चन पूछता है तो बता सकते हैं इसको. So this is the kind of when you are self aware, you present yourself very well. So उस ENO analysis में क्या हुआ, I wasn't able to comprehend the situation because it was confusing. 6 months, then 18 months, bomb explosion. उसके बाद the manufacturing process was not in house. So how come we are managing inventory, and then inventory was on different levels. So there was pre-fund inventory, prepaid inventory, all those terms, and I have to complete that assignment into a month. वो assignment जैसे जैसे करके हो गया, it completed, right? उसमें I flunked. मतलब I wasn't able to face that client, that on that particular assignment because I was not ready, we can say, or maybe I haven't faced such that kind of activity in the past. तो वो हुआ. उसके बाद क्या हुआ, that was an interim. फिर year end पे I again went to that client because अब मुझे पता था कि क्या हो चुका है. So there was तो उनकी जो finance manager or that who is responsible for that inventory aspect, the accounting inventory aspect. So she started lecturing me on the materiality. तो एक दिन क्या हुआ कि मतलब आई वाज वर्किंग ऑन अ टाइट डेडलाइन, और फिर मेरे दिमाग में वही इमोशनल थॉट आने लग गया कि भाई हाउ हाउ कुड शी टेल मी अबाउट द मटेरियलिटी. मतलब वो मटेरियलिटी देख रही है सिर्फ एक एस्पेक्ट पे, मतलब एक पर्टिकुलर प्रोसेस पे. बट व्हेन वी टॉक अबाउट मटेरियलिटी, देयर इज ओवरऑल मटेरियलिटी, देयर इज परफॉर्मेंस मटेरियलिटी. तो मैंने सोचा कि इसको ईमेल पे बढ़िया सा ज्ञान दे दूं कि इमोशनल, सो ओवरऑल मटेरियलिटी कोई चीज होती है, परफॉर्मेंस मटेरियलिटी कोई चीज होती है, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ द काइंड ऑफ, तो उन्होंने क्या कर रखा था, ई एंड ओ को जो एक्सेस एंड ऑब्सोलीट का जो रिजर्व था, दैट वाज नॉट अप्रोप्रिएट. तो मतलब इट वाज लाइक अराउंड 500,000 फिगर से वो डेविएट कर रहा था, दैट वाज अंडर मार्क्ड 500,000 से, एंड दैट वाज मटेरियल क्योंकि मैंने प्रॉफिटेबिलिटी का 5% लिया था. तो उसके वजह से मेरा परफॉर्मेंस मटेरियलिटी ब्रीच हो रहा था. एंड शी वाज सेइंग कि ये तो कुछ भी नहीं है, मतलब अगर उस ट्रांजैक्शन पे कुछ नहीं था, पर अगर मेरे वाले पूरे परफॉर्मेंस में रियलिटी अफेक्ट हो रहा था, तो मैंने सोचा कि मैं इसको ज्ञान दूं। बट फिर मैंने सोचा कि इसको ज्ञान देके क्या फायदा, मतलब अगर मैं फ्रस्ट्रेशन पे करता फिर वो एस्केलेट होता, दैट कुड हैव बीन एस्केलेटेड टू माय डायरेक्टर और इवन द सीएई, किसी को भी वो एस्केलेट हो सकता था। सो आई टुक अ मोमेंट, मैंने रात भर उसको सोचा, मैंने उसको कोई रिप्लाई नहीं किया, क्योंकि दैट फ्रस्ट्रेशन कुड हैव अफेक्टेड, क्योंकि एक तो फ्रस्ट्रेशन पुराना बिल्ड था, बिकॉज आई वाज नॉट एबल टू comprehend और whatever, right? और अगेन एडेड इट विद कि ये मेरे को मटेरियलिटी पे ज्ञान दे रही है कि इट वाज मटेरियल और नॉट मटेरियल। सो इफ आई हैव वर्कड ऑन माई इम्पल्स, और उस टाइम जो मेरे इमोशंस थे, इफ आई wasn't able to regulate them well, मैं उसको लिख देता कि इट इज ब्रीचिंग, मतलब अच्छे से लिख देता, ये नहीं बोलता कि परफॉर्मेंस मटेरियलिटी ब्रीच हो रही है, मैं कह रहा था कि आई डोंट नीड टू लर्न मटेरियलिटी फ्रॉम यू, ऐसा करके मैं बोल सकता था। बट जस्ट बिकॉज आई हैड अ कंट्रोल ओवर माई इमोशंस, आई थॉट ऑफ नॉट रिप्लाइंग इट और छोड़ दिया, एंड दैट असाइनमेंट वेंट वेल। उसके बाद जो ईयर एंड वाला हुआ था, दैट वेंट वेल। सो वी नीड टू बी सेल्फ अवेयर, वी नीड टू इमोशंस पे कंट्रोल करना है, इमोशंस हमें कंट्रोल ना कर लें। So that is the essence of, when we start with being self aware. Now second is practicing empathy. So I'll tell you from an example why why we need to be more empathetic. So ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में, उसी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एक बंदा है, मतलब हमारी टीम से था, ही वाज परफॉर्मिंग आईटी ऑडिट, he used to perform IT audit, and so I am a CA as well as CISA, DISA. So I am a member of ISACA and IIA as well. So apart from business audit, I also do IT audits. So when I started doing IT audits, I mean, I have the certification, but there's a difference between having a certification and when you perform it in real, right? So there is this person, let's say S-Man. So इसका क्या था? So अभी when people, so there are two kinds of leader. एक वो होते हैं जो अगले को बताएंगे, they won't make them feel small, right? If you don't know something, I mean, every one of us started from something, like we started learning from our, let's say, articleship. अगर मैं business process audit करता हूँ या stat audit करता हूँ या GST audit करता हूँ, GST समझता हूँ, because it was in our curriculum, because we have had hands-on experience, right? So there are people who will explain it to you before, without making you feel small. And then there will be people who will mock at you, laugh at you, कि भाई इसको तो नहीं आता है, मतलब तू तो बिजनेस प्रोसेस करता था आईटी ऑडिट में, यार तूने देखा नहीं होगा ढंग से ऐसा। सो देयर वाज दिस प्रिविलेज एक्सेस रिव्यू दैट वी वर डूइंग, एंड देयर वाज जनरल एक्सेस रिव्यू दैट इज फॉर बिजनेस यूजर। तो वी वर परफॉर्मिंग दैट, एंड देयर वर टू ERPs that process owners were using to perform that review. तो एक बार तो वो जीरा पे रख रहे थे, and there was some in-house developed software जिस पे वो रख रहे थे, और माइग्रेशन में कुछ तो इशू था, because Q4 में their target was to migrate all of that access review to, let's say, a third party application जो उन्होंने in house develop किया हुआ था, they were unable to। तो फिर हमने ऑब्जर्वेशन बनाया था कि यूजर एक्सेस रिव्यू इज नॉट परफॉर्मिंग एप्टली, क्योंकि 180 डेज से ऊपर वाले जो यूजर्स है, एज पर पॉलिसी उन्हें क्या उसको टर्मिनेट कर देना चाहिए था उनका लाइसेंस, और मार्क देम एज इनएक्टिव, बट दे वर नॉट डूइंग इट। तो अब क्योंकि जो मेरे मैनेजर थे दैट वाज स्पेसिफिक टू बिजनेस प्रोसेस, तो फिर उन्होंने कहा कि उससे उसको देख ले। तो फिर मैं उसके पास लेके गया, मैंने कहा कि ये ऐसे चल रहा है, कि दिस इज अ पोटेंशियल ऑब्जर्वेशन। तो फिर उसके मेरे मैनेजर के साथ उसका कॉल हुआ, एंड देन मेरे मैनेजर ने वो स्पीकर पे ही रखा हुआ था, उन्होंने बोला हुआ था कि राकेश इज सिटिंग हियर विद अस। तो फिर उन्होंने बोला कि भाई उसने ढंग से देखा नहीं होगा। सो अगर मान लो मैंने देखा भी नहीं था, तो there is a process or there is a way of telling कि you could go to, let's say, the third party application, certify application or Jira. So सारे के सारे reviews Jira पे नहीं हो रहे, यहाँ पे भी हो रहे। So by this example, I want to tell you that how being empathy, how this feeling of how practicing empathy leads you to, being patient, a patient listener, and guiding people instead of criticizing. So उस दिन मैंने आई प्रॉमिस माई सेल्फ कि मैं ये काम नहीं करूंगा, बिकॉज आई वॉन्टेड टू लर्न IT ऑडिट्स, क्योंकि मुझे सिर्फ बिजनेस ऑडिट्स पे लिमिटेड नहीं रहना था, क्योंकि कल को अगर मैं, इफ आई एम एस्पायरिंग फॉर, लेट्स से, CA और सम अदर पोजीशन, आई नीड टू हैव द नॉलेज ऑफ बोथ एस्पेक्ट, नॉट ओनली लिमिटेड टू बिजनेस प्रोसेस फॉर इंस्टेंस। उसके बाद फिर बहुत सारे अपने पीयर्स आए, CAs हु स्टार्टेड प्रैक्टिसिंग इनटू IT डोमेन्स, IT ऑडिट्स इटसेल्फ। तो उन्होंने, उनको जब भी स्टार्ट करना था, और व्हेनेवर दे स्टार्टेड फीलिंग स्टक, so they came to me, और फिर मैं उन्हें अच्छे से गाइड करता था, बिकॉज आपके साथ हो चुका है वो चीज, एंड you are aware that a particular XYZ person was not having that feeling of empathy to you, but that's your learning point, that you need to feel empathy for the other person. So that's how we evolve. That's how emotional intelligence evolves. That's how it makes you a great leader. The third is creating a safe emotional space. So how it is important to create a safe emotional space, and this is very much important for a person who is acting as a leader, कि जो उसके team members है, they feel very much safe in his presence. So there is this director of our, let's call him Alex. So recently we were using audit board as our audit tool, audit management tool. Sare working papers and everything, all kind of workings were stored in that particular audit tool, audit board, let's say. So what happened is CA changed, and she was thinking of bringing some other ERP. Pricing का भी कुछ issue था. So we went with OnSpring. अभी क्या हुआ, OnSpring implementation चला. So anyone of you who have implemented an ERP or worked on any kind of audit program or any kind of software, तो आपको मालूम है there is a build phase, right? And build phase के बाद there is a development phase, and then there is UAT. So it is a kind of system development life cycle, we can say, right? So so OnSpring was being built as per our customization request, क्योंकि हमें जो चाहिए था, वर्क पेपर कैसे रखना है, अरेंज रखना है, हमारे को सॉक्स के लिए चाहिए, IFC के लिए चाहिए, ऑप्स ऑडिट के लिए अलग मॉड्यूल चाहिए, हाउ दीज मॉड्यूल्स विल बी इंटीग्रेटेड, ये सारी चीजें थी. एंड दिस इज स्टार्टेड इन अक्टूबर. ऑल्सो अक्टूबर में हमारा सॉक्स का सेकंड साइकिल था, एंड टीम वाज मतलब वेरी मच engaged, or let's say overburdened, and everyone was feeling some kind overwhelmed. So तीन चार बंदे थे who were responsible for the UAT, user acceptance test, and we have to do it. And this director of ours, Alex, he is a gem of person. And when I say this, and in the previous examples, where I told you that the leadership skill, the kind of leader you evolve was, and emotional intelligence and team member should follow you. It happens on their own. If you want someone to follow you, they won't follow you. They will follow you because they themselves want to follow you. They themselves want to become like you. And when we talk about Alex, for instance, so everyone in our team wants to become like him only, because the kind of knowledge he have, the kind of safe emotional space he creates or he brings to you. So एक बार को मैनेजर से पंगा हो सकता है, पर उनसे नहीं हो सकता. So उस टाइम क्या हुआ कि ऑप्स ऑडिट भी चल रहा था, सॉक्स ऑडिट भी चल रहा था, एंड देन देयर वाज यूएटी टेस्टिंग, और गो लाइव वाज फिक्स्ड एट 24th ऑफ नवंबर, जो अभी चला गया. एंड सॉक्स सेकंड साइकिल भी हमें 24th ऑफ नवंबर तक कंप्लीट करना था. तो जब ये यूएटी हो रहा था, ही आस्क्ड अस अगेन एंड अगेन, विल यू बी एबल टू परफॉर्म इट, मतलब ये कर पाओगे या नहीं, स्पीक अप, स्पीक अप, स्पीक अप. उन्होंने 3-4 बार बोला, हर एक मीटिंग में बोलते थे. लास्ट में फिर क्या हुआ कि उन्हें पता चला कि नो वन इज गोइंग टू स्पीक अप, तो उन्होंने खुद ही उसको ड्रॉप कर दिया. उन्होंने बोला कि नाउ आवर कोर फोकस इज टू कंप्लीट द सॉक्स असाइनमेंट, ये ऑन स्प्रिंग बाद में कर लेंगे, मतलब. So that's the kind of leader person like to become, and he created that safe emotional space for us, even though people were unwilling to speak, but he himself at the end speak on our behalf to the CAE ki we won't be able to pull it through, we'll do it, let's. And he pushed the deadline to 12th of December. And that's how he created a emotional space, and that's how we all can create at the level that we are. Some of you might be at a leadership stage, and this is the kind of activity, or this is the kind of so, attribute we can inculcate in ourselves to create a emotional space or safe space where people can come to us, talk to us freely about anything, any kind of issues or problems they are facing. Now lead with positivity. So again, we were doing this interim audit for payroll, global payroll. Abhi, anyone of you who are who have done performed the IT audits must be knowing the SOC report, right? SOC report. अगर IT audit नहीं भी किया होगा तो business process में भी we extensively use SOC report. So to give you some background, SOC report basically हम organization से obtain करते हैं. So the kind of activities that we have outsourced, so to just get a reliance over it, we obtain SOC report from that particular client. So it is like a audited statement from their auditor. तो उनसे हम सॉक रिपोर्ट लेते हैं. So एक कंट्रोल था where the business process owner who is responsible to oversee a particular that particular third party control needs to review the SOC report. So SOC report जब review करते हैं तो उसमें comments होते हैं auditor के कि how they performed their testing, whether they identified any kind of exception or not. और उसमें भी अपने जो opinions होते हैं जैसे अपने adverse opinion, modified opinion या unmodified opinion, it is all there in that SOC report. So उनके साथ क्या हुआ, she was new to that role. I mean, she was like for 5 or 6 years in that organization, but she has never performed that SOX review कि as a process owner कैसे करते हैं SOC review. So मेरे पास आया था वो ऑडिट एंड आई वाज परफॉर्मिंग दैट ऑडिट. SOC रिव्यू रिपोर्ट में देख रहा था, मैं उनसे मांगा तो उनके पास नहीं था. उनके पास SOC रिपोर्ट था बट वो रिव्यू नहीं था, उन्होंने कभी किया नहीं क्योंकि रिव्यू. सो शी शेयर्ड विद मी द SOC रिपोर्ट. मैंने वो सारे देख लिए कि उसमें लकीली फॉर हर देयर वाज नो मॉडिफाइड ओपिनियन और क्वालिफाइड ओपिनियन. और कहीं पे भी SOC रिपोर्ट अगर आप देखोगे तो उसमें टेस्टिंग स्टेप्स रहते हैं, राइट? तो उसमें दे आर टेस्टिंग सैंपल्स. अगेन ऑडिट इज ऑल अबाउट सैम्पलिंग, राइट? तो उसमें सैंपल्स में क्या होता है, सो लेट्स से एक पर्टिकुलर थर्ड पार्टी सर्विस प्रोवाइडेड है, फॉर एग्जांपल एडीपी. एडीपी इज अ टूल और सॉफ्टवेयर दैट वी यूज फॉर पेरोल प्रोसेसिंग. तो एडीपी एडीपी का जो सॉक रिपोर्ट था, तो एडीपी इज नॉट मैनेजिंग लेट्स से फॉर एक्स वाई जी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन ओनली. सो फॉर इंस्टेंस टाटा, इन्फोसिस, कॉग्निजेंट, इन सारों के भी वो पेरोल पेरोल प्रोसेस मैनेज कर रहे हैं, राइट? तो जो सैंपल्स स्टैट्यूटरी ऑडिटर्स उनके या जो उनके ऑडिटर से जब वो ऑब्टेन करते हैं, तो इट कुड बी फ्रॉम लेट्स से टीसीएस, इट कुड बी फ्रॉम कॉग्निजेंट, या सारे के मिक्स होते हैं. और जिसमें उन्हें इशू आ रहा है, इट कुड बी फ्रॉम एनी वन ऑफ दोस थ्री कंपनीज, राइट? तो सो जब हम सॉक रिपोर्ट रिव्यू करते हैं तो वी डोंट हैव टू ओनली सी द ओपिनियंस, बट वी हैव टू सी व्हाट काइंड ऑफ टेस्टिंग वाज डन. तो लकीली उसमें जो एक्सेप्शन थे उसमें कहीं पे भी ऐसा नहीं था कि कोई काइंड ऑफ एक्सेप्शन था दैट वाज नॉट रिमीडिएटेड. इफ इट वाज देयर तो उनके लिए फिर एक ट्रबलसम हो सकता था, एंड इट कुड हैव बीन आइडेंटिफाइड एज अ प्रोसेस इंप्रूवमेंट इन द रिपोर्ट, और एक एक्सेप्शन आता. तो मैंने देख लिया कि ये सारी चीजें. फिर आई आस्क्ड हर कि आपका रिव्यू कहाँ पर है इस पे. तो शी सेड दैट शी इज न्यू टू इट एंड शी हैज नेवर डन. तो तो मैंने क्या कहा कि वी कुड हॉप ऑन अ कॉल एंड आई कैन शो यू हाउ इट इज डन. फिर so since I created that safe space and I led with positivity, so she was comfortable to get on a call with me, and then I showed her how it is how this review is performed, and she thanked me for that. So this is how you lead with positivity. You don't और इसमें कुछ ऐसा भी नहीं था कि अगर मैं कंसल्टिंग में रहता तो आई कुड हैव मार्क्ड इट एज अ process improvement opportunity या फिर एक kind of observation. But when you come to industry, your perspective shift. मतलब instead of fault finding, we go with whether it was practicable for her to do or not, and we focus more on the whys, ki why she was not able to perform, and if it is well within that it could be performed, then it is okay. Now the second part is respond wisely and reduce workplace chaos. So workplace chaos not always come from big disaster कि कोई project फट गया या ये सारी चीजें हो गई. It is not always limited to that. It often starts with small emotional reactions. So जैसा मैंने बताया था अभी last slides में कि एक harsh email, या फिर कोई सा एक tense meeting हो गई या कोई deadline miss हो गया. कई बार क्या होता है कि so when you are working with the US clients, तो कई बार मीटिंग उनके कॉल उनके टाइम जोन के हिसाब से होता है. सो वन ऑफ आवर टीम मेंबर्स पुट अ कॉल फॉर लेट्स से 2:30 इन आवर 2:30 AM इन द मॉर्निंग. उनके टाइम जोन के हिसाब से इट वाज डिफरेंट, और अपने हिसाब से 2:30 इन द मॉर्निंग. तो हमने उसे बोला भी था कि भाई देख लियो, सेट अ काइंड ऑफ अलार्म और समथिंग रिमाइंडर कि यू डोंट मिस दैट कॉल. और इफ मतलब तू उसे अगले दिन के लिए भी कर सकता है, ऐसा नहीं है कि उसी दिन ही करना है, मतलब अपने टाइम जोन में भी कर सकते हो. लेट्स से 10 और 11 PM समथिंग लाइक दैट इफ पॉसिबल. तो उसने कहा कि नहीं, आई विल मैनेज, और वो सो गया. सो instead of scolding him, or instead of scolding him, our manager मतलब talked to that person, that process owner with whom it was that meeting was set, and he agreed for some other day. So this is how you reduce the workplace chaos, right? And why it is important for us as a chartered accountant, because for us, precision and deadline, these are the two rules. So we have to act with precision within the deadline. And जब ये वाले सिचुएशन होते हैं तो स्ट्रेस एंड कॉन्फ्लिक्ट आर बट ऑब्वियस थिंग्स. So uh, we need to be very much emotionally available or emotionally intelligent while responding, so that we could be able to respond wisely and reduce chaos. So what are the aspects, or what are the POV we should keep in mind that requires emotional intelligence? So before reacting, take a pause. मतलब see, किसी ने आपको कुछ बोला, या फिर you received a kind of email, instead of acting on it impulsively, think of it. मतलब let it sit for a while. Let's say एक 90 सेकंड का ब्रीथिंग रूल भी है, that which calms you down. So अगर आप overwhelmed feel कर रहे हो, let's say before an interview, before a presentation, before a meeting with a process owner, before a meeting with a client, give yourself some time. Do some kind of breathing exercises. It helps a lot. And always pause before reacting. So आप जैसे इंटरव्यू में गए and someone asks you a question, sometimes it happens that it is in our back of the mind, but we are not able to collect it. उस टाइम रिकलेक्ट नहीं कर पाते. So take a pause, and before answering or before reacting, take a pause, give yourself some time, and then respond in that. So when you respond in this particular steps, you respond wisely, or chaos नहीं रहता उस time. Whenever you are responding, whenever responding to someone, understand the situation or understand the emotion behind that situation. अगर कोई situation अगर हुआ है, कोई email आया which was escalated, just understand कि क्यों हुआ था ये escalate, and what I could do to de-escalate it, या फिर ये further escalate ना हो. So just pause and choose a response that calms and not escalates. So इसके लिए भी मेरे साथ एक बढ़िया एग्जांपल है मेरे पास. It recently happened with me in this organization. So I was performing audit for again inventory वाले में ही हुआ था, उसमें बहुत सारे disasters हुए. So one of the disaster was this. तो उस वाले ऑडिट में क्या हुआ, आई नीडेड सम राइट्स. सो ओरेकल एक ओरेकल ईआरपी ये यूज करते थे. सो आई नीडेड सम काइंड ऑफ राइट्स. तो जब भी आप राइट, सो आई रेज्ड अ स्मार्ट टिकट, और वो राइट का ओनर था दिस पर्सन, लेट्स कॉल हिम नील जी. सो ही वाज रिस्पांसिबल फॉर टू गिव मी दैट राइट. और उसी टाइम मैंने इसे कुछ डेटा रिक्वेस्ट भेजा था दैट वाज टेक्निकल फॉर बोथ मी एंड हिम टू अंडरस्टैंड, बिकॉज मेरे लिए वो टेक्निकल था टेक्निकल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से. For Neil, it was technical from business understanding point of view. So वहां पर एक communication lag रहा. And then he mixed that data request with the access request that I asked for. वो ऑडिट खत्म हो गया, इसने मेरे को वो एक्सेस नहीं दिया. देयर वाज फिर 2-3 टाइम. सो जो ओरेकल मैनेज करते हैं, सो उनके जो सिस्टम एडमिनिस्ट्रेटर है, वो अपने टिकट्स रिव्यू करते हैं कि किसका टिकट कितना ज्यादा पेंडिंग था. सो मेरा टिकट वाज पेंडिंग फॉर लेट्स से 90 डेज और 90 डेज और सो, एंड दिस पर्सन हैज नॉट गिवन मी द एक्सेस. तो वो बार बार उसे मेल करते हैं, मेरे को मेल करते हैं. तो एक दिन ऐसे ही फ्रस्ट्रेशन में आके मैंने क्या किया, आई मार्क्ड हिज सीनियर. मैंने एस्केलेट कर दिया वो मेल कि टेल मी व्हाई यू आर नॉट एबल टू गिव मी दिस, गिव मी द राइट फॉर दिस पर्टिकुलर रिपोर्ट. तो फिर उसने उसमें फिर हमारे चैट वैट लगा दिए कि ये डिस्कस हुआ था. फिर मैंने उस चैट में बोला, क्योंकि मुझे लगा कि वो उस चैट में जो हमने डिस्कस किया था दैट वाज विद रिस्पेक्ट टू दी डेटा रिक्वेस्ट दैट आई सेंट हिम. पर फिर मैंने उसमें क्वेश्चन पूछा कि और उसने जब रिस्पॉन्ड किया, तो इट वाज नॉट ओनली हिज सीनियर, इट वाज माय मैनेजर, माय स्किप मैनेजर. सीएई को उसने छोड़ दिया. माय मैनेजर, माय स्किप मैनेजर, फिर जो ओरेकल डेटाबेस के टीम से थी, सो उसको उसके मैनेजर और जितने भी डेटाबेस के टीम थे. So what started from an email between 3%, it spiraled into 4, and then to 12 or 15 odd percent. फिर मैंने भी उसमें इम्पल्सिवली एक्ट करते हुए मैंने कहा कि आई थॉट इट वाज, पर फिर मैंने उसमें इम्पल्सिवली नहीं एक्ट किया. मैंने उससे पूछा just to calm the situation, to control the situation, that I thought it was for the data request. Correct me if I am wrong, or was my understanding wrong, please correct me. तो उसने फिर उसके बाद वो भी काम हो गया. उसने बोला कि no, this was very much for the access request. मैंने बोला ठीक. फिर मैंने उसके बाद फिर मुझे वापस गुस्सा आया. मैंने फिर उसको बोला जो Oracle डेटाबेस का था कि basis this response please close this ticket. तो उसमें कुछ नहीं हुआ. सो मेरे मैनेजर और स्किप मैनेजर ने इसलिए कुछ नहीं बोला बिकॉज दैट एक्सेस वाज रिक्वायर्ड, और उनके लिए भी मतलब इट वाज अ फ्यूटाइल थिंग. बट because I was not able to manage situation, just because I am speaking on a particular topic, or let's say any one of us, matlab, so it's not necessary that we are always emotionally available, or we are working on basis our emotional intelligence. We all are humans, and we all face time or situation where we lose our temper, or emotions take control of us, instead of we taking control over our emotions. So this was one of that situation. तो उसमें हुआ कुछ नहीं, उसके बाद वो एक्सेस मुझे मिला नहीं, एंड आई नेवर आस्क्ड फॉर इट अगेन. अभी मुझे वहां से अगर कोई रिपोर्ट चाहिए होता है, आई आस्क्ड समवन ऑफ माय पीयर्स हु इज हैविंग द एक्सेस टू दैट रिपोर्ट, और वो मुझे वो रिपोर्ट दे देता डाउनलोड. दिस इज इट. नाउ व्हाई इट मैटर्स. Again, the kind of environment that we are working at, let's say because of the audit season or the deadlines that we are working on, or client ka kai bar pressure rehta hai. Many times if we are working on in an industry, high stress environment hota hai, especially during the closing, जब month end closing चलता है, फिर again opening of the month, reversal and all, consolidation, tax audits. मतलब when you are working as a client, तब tax audit क्योंकि आपने करवाना होता है, and when you are working as an auditor, क्योंकि आपको करना होता है. So that is all high stress environments, right? And to manage that high stress environment, first we need to understand what are the common chaos triggers. So some of the common chaos triggers that I find out was, let's say कई बार client का frustration आ जाता है last minute adjustment पे. तो client ने एक last minute adjustment कर दिया, so stat auditor frustrate हो जाते हैं. और या फिर स्टैट ऑडिटर ने कोई एक लास्ट मिनट, या फिर हमने कोई एक लास्ट मिनट डॉक्यूमेंट रिक्वेस्ट भेज दिया, एंड क्लाइंट गॉट फ्रस्ट्रेटेड बिकॉज ही हैज अदर थिंग्स टू डू अपार्ट फ्रॉम apart from coordinating with us in an audit activity. So that is there. We have to understand why his frustration is arising. What is the root cause of his frustration? How can we make their life easier? Because if we make someone else's life easier, our life will become easier as if it is related. So our life will become easier on themselves, on itself. Now there is team conflict during so कई बार team conflict भी होता है. So if you know, many a times peers also review work paper. So जब हम QAIR करते हैं, जिसको अपने अगर CA लैंग्वेज में बोले तो QPR जो होता है, परफॉर्म क्वालिटी रिव्यूज जो करते हैं हमारे peers वगैरह करते हैं. So whenever you perform an audit, there is a senior partner who does the quality review as well. So IIA के terms में when you perform internal audits, there is QAIR. So जब एक QAIR होता है, so your peer is reviewing your work paper. Or if you're not performing QAIR, so when you submit a work paper, it is being reviewed by your manager or जो भी उसका reviewer है. So कई बार क्या होता है कि manager audit board में क्या है, there is a if you have used audit board or some kind of audit tool, uh, तो उसमें आपने देखा होगा कि there is a section for comments. So if there is some kind of issue or some kind of a clarification that manager wants from us, they simply tag us and put the comment in there. तो वो अपने को notification आ जाता है. It is one way of doing. So एक manager ऐसे भी काम कर सकता है. Then there is another way of doing. So again I'll take an example of Alex. तो what he did, उन्होंने वहाँ पे comment डाल दिया. He was reviewing one of my work paper. एंड उसके बाद उन्होंने मुझे टीम्स पे पिंग किया कि हाय राकेश, आई वाज रिव्यूइंग दिस वर्क पेपर, इधर यू कैन रिस्पॉन्ड ऑन दैट कमेंट, एंड फिर हम कमेंट कमेंट खेलेंगे, या फिर वी कैन हॉप ऑन अ कॉल एंड यू कैन एक्सप्लेन मी कि ये क्या था, और आई कैन गिव यू माय पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, ऐसा करके. एंड आई चोज द लेटर वन बिकॉज दैट मेक्स मोर सेंस. और जो दूसरे थे उनके साथ फिर कमेंट कमेंट खेलो. मतलब इट इज जस्ट हाउ यू हाउ यू रिजॉल्व योर कॉन्फ्लिक्ट. मतलब फिर उसमें क्या एस्केलेशन होता है, एक तो इतने सारे कमेंट्स, यू योर सेल्फ गेट फ्रस्ट्रेट, मैनेजर भी फ्रस्ट्रेट हो जाते हैं. सो always choose for the better way of dealing with things, always choose for the better way of resolving the conflict. So इस केस में क्या हुआ, वी हॉप ऑन अ कॉल, मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग कुछ और थी, एलेक्स की अंडरस्टैंडिंग कुछ और थी, वी कम ऑन अ कॉमन पेज कि ये ऐसे ही परफॉर्म होना था, एंड इट वाज ओके, एंड देन ही क्लोज द रिव्यू वर्क पेपर. सो दिस इज हाउ इट कुड बी परफॉर्म. Now when it comes to responding, how should we respond? So and why responding wisely prevents miscommunication, and क्योंकि कई बार अगर आप impulsively respond करोगे तो many a times जैसे मैंने अभी पीछे example दिया, so many a times chances are there where you will more often than not miscommunicate, and it also leads to damaging the kind of relationship जैसे मेरा नील के साथ हुआ. Although I don't know if I'll be able to recover from that or not. I mean, if I'll be able to mend relationship with him or not, but I'll see to it. And then if you won't respond wisely, then there are chances of team burnout, because Team needs someone in a leadership position who understands them, who are uh, who have this skill of empathy, who feels empathetic towards them. And responding wisely does not always mean avoiding tough conversation. It means handling them with clarity and composure. When you master this skill, you don't just reduce chaos, you build trust, strengthen relationship, and create a workplace where success thrives. So इसमें क्या हुआ था, एक और एग्जांपल है मेरे पास. So initially I did the India audit. So India audit went very well. Lots of process improvement, high risk areas, improvement opportunities, सब चीज थी उस रिपोर्ट में. I I bring the observation that was never talked about, the kind of regulation changes, how it impacted, what we could have done better. It was there. उसके बाद inventory audit हुआ था, which was I was doing for the first time, and in altogether different aspect. तो it was not that well. और फिर जब so होता क्या है कि there is this feedback mechanism. एक तो client भेजता है आपको, and then you have this feedback session with your manager as well. So how my manager started, she told me that India audit went well. उस पे I am full confident on you. You can even lead it in the coming next year. Instead of my manager leading that audit, I'm gonna lead that audit. I'm very much confident on you. फिर उन्होंने बोला, so see how did the constructive feedback, and how she responded, and she didn't avoid the tough conversation. So she brought on कि जो मैंने काम अच्छा किया था, उसके बाद she brought on कि inventory audit could have been performed better. And then that feeling of empathy was there in her tone when she said that she is also doing the inventory audit for like 3 years. She is leading that inventory audit for 3 years, and still there are terms that she is not able to comprehend. So she built a kind of connection between us कि ठीक है, मतलब ये गलती हुई, इट इज नॉट न्यू, या फिर मैं इस पे तुझे डांटूंगी, या फिर अप्रेजल में पैसे कटेंगे या बोनस में, kind of things that you want to, those kind of skills, so that you could be emotionally intelligent. You could have a constructive feedback with your peers, your juniors, your seniors, which will help you in building those skills. And when you have this kind of feedback, constructive feedback session, it builds trust. So trust could be between you and your manager, you and your junior, your peers. So it comes during this conversation. So don't try to avoid any kind of conversation, just face them. And now practical strategies for responding wisely, so that the workplace chaos could be reduced. So first is, as we discussed in the previous slide, pause and assess. So again, that example of Neil Gant is highly relevant for this one. So a client sends an angry email about, let's say, a compliance issue. So what you can do is, instead of replying then and there, take some time, take 10 minutes to cool down, see what kind of issue or what kind of emotions he is feeling. You could sense it through the email. Is it valid for you to escalate it, or can you respond in some other way which could calm him down, or maybe give him the assurance that he wants? So always pause, assess, and then respond. It will help you in a long run, and this is one of the strategies that help you building your emotional intelligence skill. Now second is empathizing before acting. So let's say one of the juniors missed a deadline. अभी हमारा audit चल रहा था, and 24th of November was the deadline. Before that we had to complete all of the work papers including the review. अभी होता क्या है कि सारे कंट्रोल्स एग्जीक्यूट नहीं हो पाते तब तक. देयर आर सम काइंड ऑफ ईयर एंड कंट्रोल्स जो कुछ टाइम के बाद होते हैं, एंड देन there is like 3 or 4 days for us to review that work paper, compile that work paper, and then 1 or 2 days for our manager to review it with the review comments and everything. So if someone is unable to perform it, let's say within a 3 or 4 days, and he or she missed the deadline, instead of scolding a colleague or a junior or someone that why you were not able to perform it within the set deadline, understand why he or she was not able to perform it within the set deadline. Because then they will accept you as a leader. I mean, a person, he or she will be your leader by the authority that you have. I mean, if you are responsible for someone, or if you are leading a team, you are leader by that position. but when you understand, when you have this skill of empathy, then the other person accepts you as their leader. So instead of scolding, go to the root cause. So always, so in internal audit there is thing of knowing the root cause, what led to that action. So always have this root cause analysis mindset. So why a particular person was not able to complete it within the deadline. So ask them what was the challenge that you faced, why were you not able to complete it within the deadline. मे बी हो सकता है कि उसको डेटा ही रिसीव हुआ हो लेट, मतलब उसके पास एक दिन हुआ हो कंप्लीट करने के लिए, एंड इट इज प्रैक्टिकली इम्पॉसिबल टू डू आईटीजीसी कंट्रोल विद इन अ डे. मतलब एक्सेस रिव्यू अगर आप कर रहे हो एंड देयर आर डिफरेंट काइंड्स ऑफ एप्लीकेशन, इट इज प्रैक्टिकली इम्पॉसिबल टू डू द रिव्यू. तो वो हो सकता था अगर आप समझोगे ही नहीं. So if a leader is unable to comprehend what went wrong, तो वो तो उस पे चिल्लाएगा ही, एंड देन द अदर पर्सन, तो इससे केओस बढ़ता है वर्क प्लेस में. उसको लगेगा कि ही इज ऑलवेज पॉइंटिंग मी डाउन, मेकिंग मी फील स्मॉलर, ऐसा करके. राइट. नाउ द थर्ड थिंग इज यूज न्यूट्रल लैंग्वेज. तो एक बहुत ही बढ़िया चीज सीखी थी मैंने केपीएमजी में जब मैं ऑडिट कर रहा था एक क्लाइंट का. तो whenever we do internal audit, we do some kind of, we always give the observations, मतलब observations रहेंगे, process improvement opportunities रहेगी, and it is more like, तो client उसमें face ऐसा करता है. So उस client के audit पे we went to some other location. It was in maybe it was in Nevers. It was in Nevers. तो वहां पे मेरे को सीए ही मिला उनका. एंड दिस इज अ यूनिक अप्रोच दैट आई सॉ फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम इन एनी कंपनी दैट आई हैव ऑडिटेड in the last 7 years, 7 8 years, right? तो उसमें उन्होंने क्या किया. So observations were there, process improvement opportunities were there, जैसे अपना standard report रहता है, everything was there. But what he started with is कि वो उनके positive aspects बताते थे. So जो उस location पे that particular plant, for instance, हम plant audit पे थे, तो वो plant का जो भी बढ़िया चीज जो वो कर रहे थे, इट कुड बी कि वो प्रोसेस कोई सा फॉलो बढ़िया कर रहे थे, इट कुड बी कि उनका मैनेजर अच्छा था, इट कुड बी कि उन्होंने टेक्नोलॉजी अडॉप्शन में वो बहुत ज्यादा आगे थे, कोई भी चीज हो सकती है. वट एवर थिंग दे वर परफॉर्मिंग द बेस्ट बेस्ट ऑफ द क्लास उस पूरे इंडस्ट्री में या फिर उस पूरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के सारे प्लांट्स में, वी यूज टू हाईलाइट इट इन द बिगिनिंग ऑफ द रिपोर्ट. सो ऐसे करके, सो दिस इज अ गुड थिंग दैट वी ऑल कुड एब्जॉर्व. और ये हम भी कर सकते हैं, मतलब इफ यू आर ऑन अ पोजीशन वेयर यू कुड मेक सम मॉडिफिकेशन इन द रिपोर्ट फॉर्मेट इटसेल्फ. दिस इज समथिंग we all should apply in our day to day lives whenever we are giving some kind of observations, क्योंकि एक ये feel good वाला syndrome है. So because it makes the other person, the client also feel good कि ऐसा नहीं है कि हमने सिर्फ गलत गलत ही किया या कुछ मिस ही कर दिया, प्रोसेस फॉलो नहीं किया. There are aspects that we have performed better than anyone else, so that makes them feel good. And also, whenever you start writing an observation, for instance, when we talk about the neutral language, uh, so it could be whenever you are when you are writing an observation. So let's say ki incompetent person, so there is a saying that always refrain using negative words. मेरे को याद है when I was there in the SSB interview, तो उसमें जो हमारा SSB interview हुआ था screening से पहले, so they were asking us, they gave us the word, all the negative words. और ये बहुत ही बढ़िया एग्जाम्पल रहता है उनका, उनका क्लासिक एग्जाम्पल है. And they asked us to frame a positive sentence out of all those negative words. So that is an exercise that you can do with yourself as well. Take some negative words, try framing positive words, किससे positive words क्या निकाल सकते हैं. And also while writing observation, avoid writing the negative words कि let's say incompetent, anomalies find, ऐसा करके स्टार्ट राइटिंग पॉजिटिव. अब ऐसा नहीं कि अभी किसी ने फ्रॉड कर दिया तो यू विल राइट सम पॉजिटिव थिंग्स अबाउट इट. दैट्स नॉट व्हाट आई वांट टू से. व्हाट आई वांट टू से इज कि जब भी आप ऑब्जर्वेशन ड्राफ्ट करते हो, until and unless it is relating to fraud, तो try writing it in a positive way as if that makes sense. मतलब एसेंस उसका गायब ना हो, but it is not making them feel smaller, और उन्हें ऐसा लगे कि they were not performing their activities in a better fashion. So that should be there. Because again अगले साल फिर आपको उन्हीं की ऑडिट पे जाना है, and if ऐसा रहता है कि क्लैश रहेंगे तो फिर वो डेटा रिक्वेस्ट में पंगे आएंगे, they won't be that much of collaborative. It does not mean ki we should not remain objective or we should not perform our work as per due professional care, which are the foundation of ethics of ICI. We should do everything which is dictated by the ethics, because that makes us an ethical person. But apart from that, uh, this is also true what I'm saying, to not use the negative words whenever you are talking to someone or you are giving some kind of feedback. इसीलिए कहा जाता है constructive criticism or constructive feedback, because feedback can be destroying as well, destructive. Now, again, one of the practical strategies is focus on solution, not blame. कई बार blame game चलता है कि we were not able to complete this control because उसने data request timely नहीं मांगा था. So like in the last webinar that I was taking, उसमें एक example मैंने दिया था around review of bank account signatories. तो as you all must know कि जब हम IDR भेजते हैं तो we have, अगर procure to pay का process है तो we have a set IDR कि अगर ये process है तो ये IDR हम मांगेगा if it is a repetitive client, कि उनसे हर बार ये मांगा था. लेट्स से कि पहले वो कोई और बंदा, लेट्स से राजेश परफॉर्म करता था वो ऑडिट. If any of the person who is named Rajesh attending this webinar, please don't take it personally. तो फॉर इंस्टेंस एक राजेश कोई बंदा है तो वो एक ऑडिट करता था पहले. अब एक दूसरा बंदा आया अजय. नाउ ही टुक ओवर दैट ऑडिट. अब क्योंकि रोटेट भी होते हैं ऑडिटर्स, तो उसने ये ऑडिट लिया और उसको उसने आईडीआर भेज दिया, क्योंकि वो स्टैंडर्ड आईडीआर रहते हैं. तो स्टैंडर्ड आईडीआर हमने भेज दिया. आईडीआर इज इनिशियल डेटा रिक्वेस्ट, जो हमने डेटा रिक्वेस्ट क्लाइंट को भेजा. अब क्लाइंट से हमने वो डेटा वेटा मांग लिया. अब होता क्या है कि हमारे पास बहुत सारे कंट्रोल्स होते हैं, सो वी स्टार्ट प्रायोरिटाइजिंग कि पहले ये कंट्रोल कर लिया. अब लास्ट के 5-8 दिन बचे हुए हैं, उसमें ये वाला कंट्रोल मैं चेक कर रहा हूँ, उसमें ये है ही नहीं, बोर्ड रेजोल्यूशन फॉर इंस्टेंस, और दैट वाज रिक्वायर्ड. तो फिर मैंने लास्ट ईयर के वर्किंग पेपर देखे तो देखा कि उसने बिना बोर्ड रेजोल्यूशन के कर दिया. सो इंस्टेड ऑफ यू नो पॉइंटिंग हिम कि तूने ढंग से नहीं परफॉर्म किया, या ब्लेम गेम की जो तूने आईडीआर बनाया था उसमें दिस बोर्ड रेजोल्यूशन वाज नेवर आस्क्ड और फिर मैंने बाद में मांगा, तो फिर हम एफडीआर भेज देते हैं, फॉलो ऑन डेटा रिक्वेस्ट, राइट. पर अगेन 5-7 दिन इज बहुत लेस फॉर देम टू सेंड द डेटा, क्योंकि फिर क्लाइंट झिक झिक करते हैं. बट इट इज देयर. तो उसमें व्हाट आई कुड हैव डन बेटर, मतलब यही कर सकता था मैं कि मैंने उसको एफडीआर भेजा जो मैंने किया. अभी अदर देन उसको ब्लेम गेम करने से तो कोई फायदा होना नहीं था. मतलब बोर्ड रेजोल्यूशन एनीवे मुझे मिलता नहीं अनटिल अनलेस आई डोंट सेंड द एफडीआर. तो अब उसको बोल के कि तूने पिछले साल ढंग से टेस्ट नहीं किया था. सो देयर इज अनदर वे ऑफ टेलिंग कि भाई तूने ढंग से टेस्ट नहीं किया था क्या. हाउ वी कैन टेल हिम कि भाई आई वाज लुकिंग एट द वर्क पेपर फॉर प्रीवियस ईयर और मैं डेटा रिक्वेस्ट देख रहा था, इसमें बोर्ड रेजोल्यूशन नहीं था. तो मतलब ये अपने इस टेस्ट में चाहिए ही नहीं, या फिर मतलब हम किसी और ये कंट्रोल लैंग्वेज ही कुछ और बोल रहा है, या मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग गलत है, इंस्टेड ऑफ सेइंग कि भाई तू तो ढंग से ऑडिट ही परफॉर्म नहीं करता. सो ऑलवेज फोकस ऑन सॉल्यूशंस, ब्लेम गेम नहीं खेलना. एंड सो यू हैव टू क्रिएट, मतलब अभी अपन इस स्टेज पे हैं, in the coming 5-10 years down the line we all will be at a senior position in some organization, या फिर अपने ही अगर CA firm, if you are practicing CA firm, तो उसमें you'll, if you will provide this kind of environment, then people will thrive. They will be open to come to you for any kind of discussion, solution, anything, whether it is professional or personal to them. It helps in a long way, in a long run. Now we have this another subtopic, that is empathy builds trust and influence. So emotional intelligence mein there is this word, there is this topic empathy, and it is a lot of talked about, and it is very much important and when we say of emotional intelligence. People will forget what you said, but people will never forget or never forgive you how you made them feel. तो जो आपने बोला वो हो सकता है कि आदमी भूल जाए. आपने क्या किया वो भी मे बी वो भूल जाए, पर आपने उन्हें कैसा फील करवाया, पीपल नेवर फॉरगेट दैट, बिकॉज दैट इज डीप रूटेड इनटू देयर ब्रेन्स. जैसे मैंने ऊपर एक एसमैन का एग्जांपल लिया था. सो उस चीज को लगभग इट इज नाउ 2-3 years एंड मैं अभी तक भी नहीं भूल पाया. सो दैट आई एंड उससे लेसन लेते हुए मैंने ये प्रॉमिस किया अपने आप को कि दैट आई I'll never make anyone else feel smaller if they don't know something. I mean, we all should strive for chartering into uncharted territories. Why should we limit it to be, let's say, business process audit? Why can't we do the IT audit, for instance? So always make anyone feel better if you can. Don't make anyone feel smaller. And this is a trait of a leader who have a high EQ, or the emotional intelligence. And how it is relevant for us, I mean, the PSEC has must have thought something of emotional intelligence, and that's why we are having this webinar, and we are speaking on in this webinar about this particular topic. Because finance and auditing may we interact with clients, we interact with process owners, we interact with our peers. It could be your siblings, parents, your spouse, anyone. Or emotional intelligence is not only limited or restricted to, let's say, workplace or anything. However, we are talking about it because that is, in some way or the other, this will shape our future, how we are going to be like 5-10 years down the line. So, how empathy builds trust and influence. So, we all are chartered accountants. That means we have the financial or the expertise into the financial domains. Let's say about the compliance, about accounting standards, Ind AS, GST, taxation, and whatnot, right? But apart from having the IQ, this is IQ that we are talking about. We need to have the emotional intelligence as well, because emotional intelligence help us to build that bridge, that connection with the clients or peers or the process owners, right? And it comes from empathy. So when you understand, when you care about someone, when you make them feel better, so you build influence, and no title or a designation can give you that kind of influence. For instance, when I take example of Alex again and again, because he has built that kind of culture in our organization, that kind of trust and that kind of influence that he commands over all people. So that's why I'm still talking about him, right? And when we say when you understand and care about other person, so again, जब मैं global payroll audit कर रहा था, so I asked for a data request US का, कि उनका payroll चाहिए था मुझे. And again, जिनको मैंने SOC बताया था कि how to do SOC review, so I asked her for the data request before SOC review. वो SOC review पे मेरे पास क्यों आई, I'll tell you in this example itself. तो शी टोल्ड मी, क्योंकि वहाँ यूएस में क्या होता है कि अनलाइक इंडिया, इंडिया में क्या अपना मंथली पेरोल प्रोसेसिंग होती है, यूएस में इट इज इधर वीकली या फिर वंस इन इट इज बाई वीकली, सो हर 15 दिन पे वो प्रोसेस होता है, राइट? तो वैसा चलता था वहाँ पे. तो जब मैंने डेटा रिक्वेस्ट भेजा, दैट वाज ऑन फ्राइडे, दैट वाज ड्यू फॉर फ्राइडे, और उनको वेंसडे को वो पेरोल प्रोसेस करके देना था. तो फिर मैंने उनको थर्सडे को मैसेज किया कि कैन यू प्लीज प्रोवाइड मी विद दिस डेटा रिक्वेस्ट, क्योंकि दिस इज ऑलरेडी पास ड्यू. फिर उन्होंने बोला कि आई वोंट बी एबल टू प्रोवाइड इट टुमारो, बिकॉज उनके बच्चे का कोई तो एक्सीडेंट हो गया था एंड शी हैज टू गो टू हॉस्पिटल. तो वैसा करके, तो फिर मैंने थर्सडे को उनको मैसेज नहीं करा बिकॉज शी वाज आउट ऑफ ऑफिस. फ्राइडे को मैंने उनको अगेन पिंग किया. सो सबसे पहले मैंने उनसे पूछा कि हाउ योर सन फीलिंग, हाउ आर यू फीलिंग. So that is empathy, and this is how you build the trust and how you influence, or how you command influence over people. So मतलब वो थोड़ा सा संटी हो गई थी, शी वैसा था. So she said thank you so much for remembering about my son, he is doing good. और फिर मैंने जब उसके बाद डेटा रिक्वेस्ट किया, उन्होंने फ्राइडे सेम दे दिया मुझे, इवन दो शी वाज बिजी इन द पेरोल प्रोसेसिंग फॉर द कमिंग वेंसडे. बट दिस इज हाउ अगर मैं सिर्फ जाके सीधे उनसे डेटा रिक्वेस्ट ही मांगता, डेटा रिक्वेस्ट पे ही बात करता, कि फ्राइडे को जैसे ही वो आई, थर्सडे को अपने बच्चे को हॉस्पिटल से मे बी लेके डॉक्टर अपॉइंटमेंट के बाद, और मैं फ्राइडे को फर्स्ट थिंग इन द मॉर्निंग, क्योंकि जब अपना इवनिंग होता है तो उनका मॉर्निंग रहता है, देयर इज अ टाइम डिफरेंस एज यू ऑल नो. तो मैं उनको फर्स्ट थिंग इन द मॉर्निंग आई एम पिंगिंग हर ऑन द डेटा रिक्वेस्ट कि भाई डेटा क्यों नहीं दिया अभी तक. तो उसमें वो फ्रस्ट्रेट होती है, और इट इज मोर लाइकली देन नॉट कि वो मुझे डेटा वेंसडे क्या अगले नेक्स्ट वीक फ्राइडे पे भी नहीं देती. दैट वुड हैव अफेक्टेड माय वर्क. So this is why it is very much necessary for a person to have empathy, and having this kind of or फिर इससे again when she faced problem with the SOC review, SOC report review, so she came to me कि can you tell me how to do this. मतलब she herself came to me because the kind of trust that I built with her, the kind of, because I was having this skill of empathy towards her, so that's why she reached out to me. And when we talk about empathy, it is not just listening. So matlab, listening is one of the aspect of emotional intelligence, because sometimes you feel you face situation when you are unable to understand what should I tell to some other person, because you don't have any answer or any solution, and it is not always practicable for us to give solution. Sometimes you, what all you can do is, you could just listen, and that is also good to have. I mean, that is also one of the traits of a emotionally intelligent person. But when we talk about empathy, it is not just listening, it is understanding the emotions and responding with care, like from the example that I took, that I told you just now. So this is how we could, have this skill, we could build this skill of empathy in our day to day life while dealing with the process owners, our peers, family members, or the clients, anyone, right? Because when people understand, they share information openly, they are they are willingly they are willing to cooperate like she did in that audit, right? And they will follow your guidance without resistance. So follow your guidance without resistance. I have an interesting example again. So in the last webinar I was talking about how in the current organization that I'm working, CA was, more inclined towards revamping our internal audit teams, outlook into the organization. So she did not wanted our internal audit team to be just of a policing activity. So internal audit को लोग समझते हैं कि they are just police, मतलब they are a kind of fault finders. So she wanted us to, portray in a different shadow. So she wanted us to be like a partners building that particular organization together. So we wanted to be their business partners and not the policemen. So we marketed ourselves towards that goal, and the result was that abhi recently, US company again, तो उनकी book closing हो रही थी. And the book, in book closing क्या हुआ कि one of the, so we all must know, we all must be knowing the accrual, right? So we do the accruals for जिनके bills अपने को receive नहीं होते, so on the basis of performa and everything. तो उसमें क्या हुआ, एक लीगल एक्सपेंस था अराउंड 800,000 के USD, राइट? 800,000 USD का था. एंड सो लीगल टीम ने उसको टाइमली अकाउंट्स को नहीं दिया, बुक क्लोज हो चुका था, एंड इट वाज नॉट बुक्ड, उस ईयर में बुक नहीं हो पाया क्योंकि बुक क्लोज हो चुका था और फिर रीओपन तो होगा नहीं अगेन. अब इसका वे आउट ये है कि एडजस्टमेंट एंट्री पास करते हैं बाय इन्फॉर्मिंग स्टैट ऑडिटर्स, ऐसा. नाउ ये जो इंस्टेंस था, ये हमें पता तब लगता जब हम अगली बार ऑडिट करते हैं उनके, क्योंकि हमने Q3 के बेसिस पर उनको अश्योरेंस दिया था, बिकॉज Q4 पे देने पे काफी टाइम रह जाता. सो हुआ क्या, जो लीगल टीम का बंदा था जिसने ये काम किया था, उसने बताया, और उनकी टीम की जो HOD थी, शी रीच्ड आउट टू आवर CAE एंड इन्फॉर्म्ड हर कि वी वर unable to do this because we built that kind of trust, we created that kind of influence कि उन्होंने खुद आए. फिर हमने क्या किया, हमने उसका रूट कॉजिंग किया कि ये हुआ क्यों. तो फिर पता चला कि देयर वाज ओनली सिंगल पर्सन हु वाज रिस्पांसिबल फॉर ऑल दिस, और उसको वो नोटिफिकेशन नहीं आया था कि ही फॉरगेट टू अपलोड एनी काइंड ऑफ बिल, ना ही कंफर्मेशन आया था. फिर हमने उस पे रिजोल्यूशन किया, रिकमेंडेशन दिया. फिर उसको हमने रिजॉल्व किया कि ये नोटिफिकेशन सिर्फ एक को नहीं, मल्टीपल पीपल को जाना चाहिए, इन द फाइनेंस एज वेल, फाइनेंस को भी इंक्लूड कर लो ताकि ये हो. So she came to us because we built that kind of trust, we created that kind of influence. And this is what we all can do when we are generally dealing with the people, because emotional intelligence is nothing but people skills. So हम सुनते हैं आपस में कि this particular XYZ person has a good people skills. So when we say people skills, that is emotional intelligence. And why it matters again, we are working the kind of industry, the kind of regulation pressure, the kind of deadline pressure that we have, and the kind of times that we are working in, it is very much needed to have empathy. So for instance, I talked to you about the review feedback that I received from my manager. So we could that is a kind of, she was empathetic towards me, and that's why we had such kind of constructive feedback mechanism. So that is there. Until unless you don't have the empathy, the feeling of empathy, it won't come to you, right? And why it matters again, many times we have dispute with the clients over, let's say, audit finding. हमने बोला कि ये होना चाहिए, वो पहले agree कर गया, then he refuted कि नहीं नहीं ये तो है ही नहीं, ऐसा नहीं है. So we need to have that फीलिंग ऑफ एम्पैथी। वो फॉर इंस्टेंस एक इंडिया ऑडिट करते हुए एक देयर वाज अ प्रोविजन, हमने सारों ने ये पढ़ा था कि सीए फाइनल के बुक्स में और इंटर में भी। सो देयर इज दिस प्रोविजन ऑफ परक्यूजिट इन इनकम टैक्स एक्ट। तो आप कभी भी जो मूवेबल फिक्स एसेट देते हो जैसे लैपटॉप, चेयर्स हो गए, टेबल्स हो गए, तो इट इज एडेड एज अ परक्यूजिट डिपेंडिंग वो डेप्रिसिएशन वगैरह निकाल के 50% इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स के केस में, लैपटॉप्स के केस में, एंड 10% एसएलएम इन बाकी सारे केसेस में जो अपने जैसे फ्रिज ये हो गया, टेबल एंड चेयर हो गया, राइट। तो अभी उस पे जब हम ऑडिट कर रहे थे इंडिया फिक्स एसेट्स का, तो उसमें ये चीज मिली। अब उसमें क्लाइंट क्लाइंट को हमने बोला भाई ये चीज तो हो गई है, मतलब इस पे तुमने उसको परक्यूजिट में नहीं डाला, फिर उसके टैक्सेशन नहीं किया, और इतने सारे लाइबिलिटीज तुम्हारे ऊपर एडिशनल लाइबिलिटी आ गई बिकॉज they didn't first thing was that they didn't included it into their perquisite valuation for the employees जिनको उन्होंने दिया था, एंड टैक्सेशन भी नहीं हुआ उसके वाले पे। सो इंस्टेड ऑफ पॉइंटिंग देम कि भाई तुमने ऐसा नहीं किया, ऐसा करना चाहिए था, वी सेड कि मतलब दिस इज द ऑब्जर्वेशन, एंड हाउ वी अप्रोच देम, मी एंड माय मैनेजर वर देयर इन द डिस्कशन विद द क्लाइंट, द एचओडी, and we started with that, we understand, we completely understand your concern कि ये वाला जो रूल है वो सही मतलब ऐसा ही है, इट वाज नॉट अपडेटेड क्योंकि इनकम टैक्स एक्ट वाज इन 1961। अभी उसके बाद उसमें 100 रुपए लिखा हुआ है ट्यूशन फीस के लिए, और 200 रुपए और 100 रुपए शायद हॉस्टल अलावेंस का है। आई मीन इट इज नॉट रिलेवेंट इन टूडेज टर्म, अभी 100-200 रुपए में कौन से हॉस्टल आते हैं। सो वी गेव सच काइंड ऑफ एग्जाम्पल सो दैट वी कुड मेक देम कंफर्टेबल कि हम भी उन्हीं के साथ ही हैं, वी आर नॉट we are not there to pinpoint or make them feel small on this observation। एंड वी रिव्यूड कि रिस्क विद, सो जब भी आप रिस्क देते हो, जब भी आप ऑब्जर्वेशन देते हो, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हैज द टू पॉसिबिलिटीज, या तो वो उसको रेमीडिएट करते हो उस रिस्क को, या फिर वो एक्सेप्ट कर लेते, कहते हैं कि इस पे कंप्लायंस कॉस्ट ही आएगा ना, अगर कल को होगा कुछ तो इनकम टैक्स वाला, तो मे बी हम उस पर फाइन वाइन दे देंगे या पेनल्टी दे देंगे या लिटिगेशन में जाएगा। तो देर आर टू अप्रोचेस। तो हमने उन दोनों पे काम किया, व्हाट वाज मोर विजिबल फॉर द क्लाइंट टू डू। So always start whenever you discuss with the client that I understand your concern, I totally understand with you, I completely agree with you. These are the words or these are the sentences that you can use when you are talking to your client or talking to someone who is disagreeing with you, or maybe you have something better to say। तो ऐसा करके आप करोगे तो अगले को लगता है कि you are not refuting their claim altogether, but you are trying to understand, you are willing to understand, you are trying to come on the same page। I mean you are understanding the other person as well। एंड इससे होता क्या है कि इट फॉस्टर्स कोलेबोरेशन, और अगला बंदा भी डिफेंसिव नहीं होता, बिकॉज अगर अगला डिफेंसिव होगा तो ही वोंट लिसन टू योर रिकमेंडेशंस। सो दैट्स व्हाई इट इज important। Now what are the action steps that we can take? So first one is कि we should listen actively। I mean we should focus on their words, what they are saying, understand their emotions कि क्यों हुआ ये सारी चीजें, वैलिडेट देयर फीलिंग्स कि ठीक है ये वाला, जैसे मान लो ये रेगुलेशन आपने कंप्लाई नहीं किया, ठीक है, आई नो दिस इज वेरी मच चैलेंजिंग, कई बार अपने को प्रोविजंस मे बी ये स्लिप हो गया होगा प्रोविजंस माइंड में, हमने इसके अगेंस्ट पॉलिसी प्रोसीजर नहीं बनाया। वी कैन ड्राफ्ट, वी कैन वर्क टुगेदर ऑन द पॉलिसी एंड प्रोसीजर। आई कैन गिव यू सम आउटलायर्स कि इसके बेसिस पे आप डेवलप कर सकते हो पॉलिसी एंड प्रोसीजर, और डॉक्यूमेंट गाइडलाइन की अगला कोई रिव्यू करे तो वो ऐसे कर ले। रिस्पॉन्ड विथ केयर, मतलब उनको सोल्यूशन ऑफर करो, नॉट जजमेंट कि ठीक भाई तुझे ये भी नहीं पता, तू सीए है, तुझे ये टैक्स का प्रोविजन नहीं पता, ये तो बेसिक प्रोविजन है जो हमने सीए इंटर या फाइनल में पढ़ा था, हाउ कम यू डोंट नो इट एंड यू आर लीडिंग द फाइनेंस फंक्शन, या तुम्हारे टीम में सारे के सारे ये यही हैं, तो फिर कैसे नहीं पता है तुम्हें, क्या तुम लोग ट्रेनिंग्स नहीं कर रहे हो। सो मतलब क्योंकि जजमेंट इज वेरी मच वेरी इजी, इट कम्स नेचुरल टू अस, राइट, but offering solution is not, and we have to work on offering solution and not judging the other person। and always practice this perspective taking। so जब मैं कंसल्टिंग से इंडस्ट्री में शिफ्ट हुआ, so this shifted my approach। पहले था कि हाँ ऑब्जर्वेशंस भर भर के दे दो, ये कर लो वो कर लो, ये क्यों नहीं कर रहे भाई, ये तो इतना सिंपल था, ये सारी चीज। so that was so this is how you can practice perspective taking कि अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम दी प्रोसेस ओनर्स पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू कि अगर वो ये चीज नहीं कर रहा है तो मे बी कि उसका रिस्क एपिटीट इतना बड़ा होगा कि ही इज अग्रीइंग टू दैट रिस्क एपिटीट। और ऐसा नहीं कि सिर्फ उसके रिस्क एपिटीट के बेसिस पे हम कर लेंगे, मतलब वी शुड हैव सम डॉक्यूमेंट्स दैट इज देयर, बट अंडरस्टैंड हिज पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू एज वेल कि व्हाई इफ ही इज नॉट परफॉर्मिंग अ टास्क इन अ सर्टेन वे, व्हाई इट इज लाइक दैट, मतलब why he is not performing in that way which we want him to perform, or which he should have performed. तो अंडरस्टैंड कि हाउ प्रैक्टिकल इट इज फॉर हिम टू परफॉर्म, और जो हम रिकमेंडेशन दे रहे हैं या जो हम ऑब्जर्वेशन दे रहे हैं, डज इट मेक some sense or not. And empathy is not a soft skill, it is a power skill, because once you have this skill, people will come to you automatically. They will follow you, they will follow your path, they will listen to you. And फिर if you are saying someone to work, let's say एक टाइट डेडलाइन पे आप काम कर रहे हो और टीम में कोलैबोरेशन बढ़िया है, सब आपको एज अ आइडल देखते हैं, दे रिस्पेक्ट यू, तो कल को आप बोलोगे कि भाई मुझे ये ना 15 दिन के अंदर काम चाहिए, मतलब करके देख ले, 18 दिन आप साथ लगे हुए हो, तो people are able to pull it off within 15 days. I have seen this kind of example. I have been there on the receiving end as well and on the serving end as well. So it is very much practicable, but we just need to have these kind of skills. We need to build this kind of skills. And having this skill gives you a competitive advantage. Because as you climb the leadership position, as you grow in your career, more than IQ, ठीक है आप काम कर लोगे. More than IQ, what people know is what people need is EI or EQ in the leadership roles. Because काम तो हर कोई कर लेगा, मतलब नहीं आता है तो उसको सिखा दूंगा, वो काम कर लेगा. बट क्या आप काम करवा पाओगे? मतलब ऐसा थोड़ी है कि डंडे से आप काम करवा पाओगे. Do you have that kind of leadership skill? And that's why we are here, to learn on it. Or even if we are aware of it, we need to be actively thinking of it, so that कि जब अपन आगे प्रोग्रेस करें अपने करियर्स में, सो वी आर अवेयर ऑफ वेयर वी आर गोइंग. क्योंकि काम अगेन हर कोई कर लेता है, काम करवाने की जो टेक्निक है, that very few of us have, and that is the leadership, that is the leadership skill that we are talking about. And being emotionally intelligent helps us achieving that leadership skill, and it will help us a lot in our career ahead. Now there is self awareness, and how having self awareness is the foundation of having a confident leadership. So when you, like we discussed in the previous slides, in the starting slides, that when you understand your emotions, your triggers, what triggers you, what gives you strengths, what are your weakness, SWOT analysis that we have studied, we need to practice it in real, right? And then you can lead with confidence even under pressure, when we are working under pressure. And when we say self awareness, we are talking about recognizing our emotions and their impact on our decision making skills, understanding our strengths and limitations. So what are my strengths, what are my limitations? जैसे मेरा है कि I am able to work under deadline. अभी ज्यादा टाइम मिल गया तो फिर मैं शुरू के टाइम ऐसे ही रखूंगा, कुछ और कर लिया, लास्ट के टाइम पे ही काम करूँ. So that is my strengths and limitations. So similar way you could do on yourself. I mean, I was wired this way maybe, इस वजह से, but similar way you could perform this approach of SWOT analysis on yourself as well. And being aware of values, what drives you. किसी का है work life balance, मतलब work life balance रखना है, although we all should strive for this particular thing, मतलब mental well-being should be our top priority. But when we talk about values, what drives us, it could be कि आपको काम करना पसंद है, you could work extensively. तो अगर कोई आके आपको बोल रहा है कि भाई वर्क लाइफ बैलेंस, तो यू नो योर सेल्फ बेटर. या फिर आपको है कि मुझे 8 घंटे काम करना है या 9 घंटे काम करना है, आई एम डूइंग माई वर्क इफेक्टिवली, आई वोंट वर्क बियॉन्ड दिस पॉइंट और दिस टाइम. तो दैट इज ऑल्सो फाइन. आप वो काम कर रहे हो और अगला आके बोले कि भाई स्टार्टिंग के करियर में तो ग्रिल योर सेल्फ, इतना काम कर, लेट सिटिंग तो नॉर्मल है, ये सारी चीजें. So understand what drives you, what kind of value you have, what kind of person you are. Because once you are self-aware of yourself, you are aware about yourself, that would make you a confident leader, that will help you shape yourself as a leadership skill. क्योंकि जब leadership skill पे आप जाते हो, when you are on a hiring procedure, you hiring a position, you look for people like you or who has the same goal as of you, work ethics or everything. So that shapes up to a certain extent that kind of team that you are building. And the leaders who are self-aware make better decision, of course, communicate with authenticity and inspire trust and confidence in their teams. Again, Alex is the example. Now, why it matters? I mean, why self-awareness matters? So first thing first, there because of when we have the self-awareness, there is clarity in the decision making. We know why we act in a certain way like we do, so we understand why we are doing this in xyz way, because we know ourselves, we are aware of ourselves. We speak with honesty, we speak with empathy to anyone we are speaking. And again, last but not the least on this one, there is a resilience under pressure. We are able to manage stress before stress takes away us. So being self-aware, you know, your breaking point. When I talk about, when I say being self-aware, we know our breaking point, that this is our limitation, this is the best I could do, or I could stretch myself beyond this point. This is what being self-aware means. And what happens when you are not self-aware? It would lead to reactive decision. Again, that email example that I took. Then communication become harsh or unclear. You will rebuke your juniors, seniors जो बोल रहे हैं अपन सुन नहीं रहे क्योंकि नहीं हो पा रहा है, because we are not that effective in communicating. See, अगर if we are not able to meet a deadline or not able to perform a task within a certain set parameter, या किसी ने ऐसा बोला तो we are not able to do it. हर चीज का एक अंडरलाइंग होता है, एक रूट कॉज होता है व्हाई वी आर नॉट एबल टू. और अगर मान लो आपके सीनियर ने कोई एक काम डेलीगेट किया टू यू एंड यू आर नॉट एबल टू डू इट, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब चुप के बैठ जाना है. आस्क फॉर, टेल देम कि भाई क्यों नहीं हुआ. या फिर आपने अगर किसी जूनियर को किया, दिया ये काम, तो ऐसा नहीं है कि उसने नहीं किया तो उसको डांट रहे हैं. मतलब अंडरस्टैंड द रूट कॉज व्हाई ही और शी वाज नॉट एबल टू पुल इट ऑफ, और व्हाई यू वर नॉट एबल टू पुल इट ऑफ. कम्युनिकेट दिस टू योर सीनियर और योर मैनेजर कि नेक्स्ट टाइम अगर कुछ ऐसा इंसिडेंट हो तो उनको ये याद रहे कि हाँ ये रीजन था, मुझे मान लो इसको और ज्यादा टाइम देना है, या ही नीड्स मोर एक्सप्लेनेशन. So this is how, this is why it matters. And whenever you respond, so self awareness जब रहता है अपने को, so we pause, we reflect, and then we respond. So always make this a golden rule कि before responding we need to take a pause, understand the situation, understand the scenario, understand emotions that we are going through, that the other person is going through, and then respond wisely, respond accordingly. And always maintain composure and confidence whenever you are speaking, or whenever you are handling a discussion or writing an email. It could be anything. Now, what are the action steps that we can take? First one is, of course, pause before you react. Don't act impulsively. Identify your emotion triggers. What triggers you? It could be frustration, it could be irritation, it could be deadline, anything. It could be anything. Identify what triggers you, because if if we are not aware of the thing that triggers us, तो वो repetitive रहता है वो task, again फिर वही चीज रहेगी, we won't be learning anything. Seek honest feedback. The feedback could come from your juniors, your seniors. Big Four में आपने देखा होगा कि managers या senior managers या AD, इनका जब appraisal होता है तो फिर they give feedback to partners as well. पार्टनर फीडबैक इनसे लेते हैं, ये फीडबैक मैनेजर से लेते हैं, या पीयर डायरेक्टर्स या सीनियर मैनेजर से लेते हैं. सो दैट इज देयर. सीक फॉर योर फीडबैक, सीक फॉर ऑनेस्ट फीडबैक कि क्या मैं इसको और अच्छा कर सकता था, एम आई अ गुड लीडर फॉर यू, कुड आई डेलीगेट टास्क इन अ बेटर वे, कुड यू परफॉर्म दिस टास्क इन अ बेटर वे. सो always be open for the feedback. एंड अगेन रिफ्लेक्ट डेली कि हर दिन आपने जो भी काम परफॉर्म किया. लेट्स से फॉर इन माय एग्जांपल, मैंने वो फेल्ड इन्वेंट्री ऑडिट से लेसन्स लिए कि आई नीड मोर प्रैक्टिस, आई नीड टू बी थॉरो थ्रू दैट प्रोसेस. अब वो प्रोसेस हो गया, सो दैट कि जब मैंने ईयर एंड ऑडिट किया तो वो रिपीट ना हो. सो ऑलवेज जनरलाइज, जो भी आपके इमोशंस आ रहे हैं, जो भी फील कर रहे हो. एक दिन खराब चला गया, मान लो ये वाला कोई एक काम मिला था, यू आर नॉट एबल टू पुल इट ऑफ. तो व्हाई वर यू नॉट एबल टू पुल इट ऑफ, उस टाइम आपने कैसा फील किया. स्टार्ट राइटिंग, स्टार्ट जनरलाइजिंग. एंड ऑलवेज प्रैक्टिस माइंडफुल कम्युनिकेशन, बिकॉज अगेन जैसा हमने स्टार्टिंग में बोला था जब अपन एम्पैथी डिस्कस कर रहे थे, दैट people forget what you said, people forget what you did, but they didn't forget, they never forget how you make them feel. So always remember this thing. Now on the emotional intelligence, there is this famous case of L'Oreal. So पहले क्या होता था कि, और अभी भी मैक्सिमम जगह ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस में हायरिंग होती है बेसिस दी IQ, मतलब जो वो असेसमेंट टेस्ट लेते हैं या इंटरव्यूज वगैरह लेते हैं. सो लोरियल में क्या हो रहा था कि जो सेल्स प्रोफाइल, एज यू ऑल नो कि सेल्स प्रोफाइल इज वेरी मच डायनेमिक, उसमें अट्रिशन बहुत ज्यादा होता है, रिवॉल्विंग रेट बहुत ज्यादा है. तो लोरियल में भी यही हो रहा था. तो लोरियल ने क्या किया कि जो और परफॉर्मेंस भी बहुत ज्यादा डिटोरिएट हो रहे थे, क्योंकि सेल्स में प्रेशर इज देयर, राइट, कि आपको इतना सेल करना है, मार्जिन प्रेशर रहता है, सेल्स टर्नओवर प्रेशर रहता है. तो लोरियल ने क्या किया कि जब हायरिंग कर रहे थे सेल्समैन के लिए, तो दे बिल्ट इन दिस EI कॉम्पिटेंसी कि जिससे फोकस रहे एम्पथी, इमोशनल स्टेबिलिटी, रिलेशनशिप बिल्डिंग, इनके ऊपर. और उसके बाद जो उन्होंने हायरिंग की, तो और इनके रिजल्ट्स जो डॉक्यूमेंटेड है कि जो EI बेस्ड हायर थे, वो वाले जो सेल्स पर्सन थे, दे जनरेटेड $91,370 मोर सेल्स पर पर्सन एनुअली. Turnover was also reduced 63% because they know what kind of job they were going on to. And if they are emotionally intelligent, तो जब वो pitch करते थे sales, and when they were connecting with the uh, let's say the customers, तो they were able to connect on a emotional ground. ऐसा नहीं कि सिर्फ बेचने ही जा रहे थे, right? So what is the key learning from this case of L'Oreal? That EI predicts performance better than traditional IQ experience scores. क्योंकि अभी जो फोकस है, दैट इज अगेन इन द लोअर, ऑन द लोअर लेवल, जब आप इनिशियल अपने करियर के पॉइंट पे होते हो, तो इट इज ऑल IQ कि आप ये काम कितना बढ़िया कर रहे हो, ये सब. बट वंस यू आर ऑन अ लीडरशिप स्केल, व्हेन यू आर लीडिंग अ टीम, जब टीम आपके अंदर काम कर रही है, तो what is more focused upon is your EQ. how how better you are able to meet your EI, योर इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस, आप दूसरों से कैसा काम करवा रहे हो. यू मस्ट हैव सीन कि जो डिपार्टमेंट्स होते हैं या फिर जो HODs होते हैं, जब वो CFO से इंटरेक्ट करते हैं या CEO से, तो कुछ ऐसे होते हैं हु आर एबल टू पुल ऑफ मोर बजट. कुछ टीम्स ऐसी होती है कि जिनका लास्ट ईयर का जो बजट था वही रहा, या फिर वो डिप्लीट भी हो गया, या फिर जब लेट्स से ले ऑफ्स होते हैं, तो ले ऑफ जब होता है, तो फिर हर एक टीम को बोल दिया जाता है कि इतने इतने बंदे तुम्हारी टीम से कम होने हैं, बेसिस जो भी वो असेसमेंट करते हैं. पर कुछ लीडर्स ऐसे होते हैं जो अपनी टीम को बचा लेते हैं, मे बी कुछ बिकॉज ऑफ देयर कम्युनिकेशन, देयर लीडरशिप स्किल, कि वो प्रेजेंट करते हैं इन अ सर्टेन वे विच शोज कि अपना जो टीम है दैट इज ऑलमोस्ट व्हाट वी नीड, और कम ही बंदे हमारे को और लगेंगे, ऐसे करके. बिकॉज दिस इज ऑल द लीडरशिप स्किल, and it not only affects you, it affects your team, your managers, your entire organization, in short. Now I have some questions for you before we get into the questions and answers round. So, within the past week, have you thought about whether you are emotionally intelligent? Would you consider yourself as emotionally intelligent? And these are the questions that you can practice, not only, after this webinar. And have you ever consciously worked on improving your emotional skill? Before this webinar. And do you believe that emotions play a role in decision making at work? So if you could put something in the chat on these questions, that will be helpful. And that will make this webinar more engaging, because I want mine objective always is to make a webinar more interactive, or any kind of deliberation that I give. Charmi, do we have some responses?
Sir, we do not have any responses from the participants.
Okay, so I'll leave you all with this questions that you can ask yourself. You can evaluate yourself on these parameters, and these are some questions or food for thought for you. And I would leave you with this thought, that what would change if everyone was emotionally intelligent? What do you think could happen differently, maybe in your organization, maybe in this world, maybe in the society that we are living? Anything. Now the platform is all yours on the Q&A. Before we move to Q&A, there is this thing that I want to convey to you all by the medium of this webinar, that please speak up in your day-to-day life as well. We are what I have seen in our chartered accountant friends are that we are, no doubt, we are doing our work very diligently, जो भी काम मिल रहा है हम सब कर रहे हैं, but uh, this thing of taking lead or breaking the ice or initiating something is very much lacking, and we all need to collectively work on this thing. I mean, बॉस ने कोई काम दिया या फिर कोई काम आया हमारे पास, हमने उतना करके दे दिया, बस दैट्स इट. You need to communicate your results to your, let's say, senior, your manager, your skip manager. Have a call, have a connect with your manager, have a skip manager mentoring session आप रख दो, that I want to have a mentor, I want you to be my mentor, I need you to mentor me on the topics. अगले आपको कोई assignment मिला है, if you are working on something, एक मेल आप उनको शूट कर सकते हो कि नेक्स्ट वीक दीज आर माई प्रायोरिटीज दैट आई विल बी टेकिंग इनटू, ये सारे मेरे प्रायोरिटीज रहेंगे, नीचे लिख दो कि वुड यू लाइक मी टू वर्क ऑन दिस थिंग और समथिंग डिफरेंट, ताकि उनको रहेगा. फिर फ्राइडे को आप ये कर सकते हो कि गिव देम अ स्टेटस अपडेट इस वाले काम पे. So this is how visibility is there. This is how you will grow in the organization, and always be willing to help your peers as well. कई बार होता है कि कोई नया बंदा आया, उसको काम नहीं आता है, and be open to teach them, because एवरीथिंग काउंट्स. मतलब इमोशनल इंटेलिजेंस में ये सारी चीजें आती है. मतलब अपना काम कर लिया, सुबह गया ऑफिस, काम किया, जो मिला वो कर लिया, चुपचाप फिर वापस निकल लिया. And there is one rule that I recently learned from my skip manager, again Alex, that if you make your boss life easier, your life will become easy itself. So this was 2 cents of mine that I wanted to share with you all. Now the platform is all yours for the Q&A.
So we do not have any question and answer from the participants end. So
Yeah,
we can close the session.
sure.
So thank you so much, sir, for the wonderful session. And it has been an honor to be a part of this wonderful webcast, Emotional Intelligence, the ultimate skill to excel and lead at work, organized by the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI. And on behalf of the Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to our speaker, CA Rakesh Singh, and also thanks to all the participants present over here who has made this webcast a successful one. Also, thank you, the team, Professional Skill Enrichment Committee, ICI, without which this webcast was not possible. And finally, all of you, thank you so much for making this webcast a grand success. Thank you all. Thank you. So, thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Yes, sir. Yes.